will say that the attitude that I have seen from people there's a lot of TikTok. I'm like in the algorithm of people who are either in hotels or new here. When the frustration is great and you do have a phone and you have a little bit of service and you're just perusing on your social media, look at what these folks are saying, the people who don't live here. Yeah, they come from big cities or towns where the power never goes off. They just have solid infrastructure. They never have to worry about their water or their power not working. It's just a thing. That's just stuff that's heavily reliant upon. Over here, it's not the same thing. It's not that it's unreliable, but when we have certain situations, it fails us. And when it does fail us, the only way, honestly, to get through it is to check your mood and see where, which one of these moods is going to get you, at least into a palatable situation. So these are folks that are comparing us to where they live, and they're all uncomfortable. And they're like the mantra, when's the power going on? I saw one who was just sitting there in front of the camera, when's the power going on? When's the power going on? And she wasn't complaining. She was just venting, right? And then there were others who say, I would rather be in Guam than anywhere in America when crisis happens, because the people here, Daishi said it the other day, it's like folks are talking about how customer service or people who are watching you and they happen to see you standing in front of a counter going, what do I buy? And then helping folks like, do buy this one, don't buy this one. You'll need this, you won't need that. A lot of people, if there's anything they're saying isn't that, I live in metropolitan, podunk America, and our power never goes off and we never have tragedies like this and we have everything that we need down the street because my Trader Joe's is right next door. None of that. It was like, if I was going to be in an emergency situation and I couldn't do without it, I would rather be here where people are kind about it and more positive and hopeful about it than they are mean and taking advantage of other people or trying to bring somebody down because somebody has something that somebody doesn't. That's just kind of the way it is. And it's also an exercise. We've been through this before, right? We've been through this before. And for those who don't have electricity, the stats that GPA is showing is they're doing 24/7 shifts. So all around the clock. They're not like going home and going to sleep. They have enough people that have come down from Saipan that arrived after helping. So they've got a number of crews that are spanning the hours of the day to cycle into all of these places. They've managed to get all of the substations. Here's something that maybe people were just relearning or didn't know, but if your feeder circuit is not working, it's because maybe the substation isn't working. They've got all the substations up, so it's just a matter of time. If you see the GPA trucks that are coming through, not buckets, I'm talking about like regular passenger SUV type of cars or pickup trucks, and they're just kind of going through your neighborhood, even at night, and you see them with their flashlights looking up at all your power lines. These are these scouts. I don't know if that's what they call them in the biz. I'm just calling them because that's what kind of they do. They go in and they look and inspect all of the lines. And plus that, because we are on this GPA smart system, they know individually what homes are actually receiving power. They called it the smart system when they first introduced it to GPA. It was this technology where you're linked into a database that if the power goes out, they can pinpoint exactly what circuit and what feeder is not functioning. Before, GPA used to go out there, dispatch somebody, and they weren't 24/7. They dispatch a crew who was nearby, and they go and they look at whatever, and then they troubleshoot. Now they've got a system where they look at it on a computer screen, and they can tell who's out. So it's not that GPA doesn't know you're out, because all of the data shows where you are and what you're doing. How they're prioritizing is probably a question that we have to ask of somebody. I was hoping... Yesterday, I spent quite a few hours trying to do this, and it just didn't work out. I really wanted somebody to come in from GPA to sit and take phone calls. I said, we really only have 2 lines, so it's not going to be pandemonium of people screaming, and people tend not to do that. When they're right in front of their face, they really want answers. The anger is there, absolutely, but the emotion is they don't want to waste any time on the radio screaming at people. They just want to know what the action is. And we just couldn't find anybody at GPA that was able to come in, because apparently they're all doing the work of, figuring out, whatever they figure out, whatever they do during recovery, all hands are on deck. So, it's a tall order to ask somebody from an agency that's being heavily criticized right now to come in and try to appease the crowd, and it's a tough job. You got to be a pretty strong, knowledgeable person of the system to come in. So we kind of are taking the hit from that. If we see it, I see it on my personal stuff. People are yelling at me all day about how come and whatever, and we just try to tell them whatever we can tell them based on whatever GPA sends us. That's number one. Number two is internet access. Do you have that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, because you have the system. Which, by the way, because you've made me Malagu over the past several times, because you have Starlink.
Right on.
We went searching.
Okay, see.
That's another item that's sold out.
Don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty for trying to be connected to the world. It's not your fault, guys.
Absolutely.
It's no one's fault. I know some people are like, I can't, I shouldn't. It's like, all right.
Oh, yeah. Mine wasn't about that.
Mine wasn't
about mine. Actually, it was. I needed convincing. Is what I needed.
It's not bad.
And so over the past couple of times, it's like, she's telling me, "Oh no, we're fine watching movies." I'm like, "Wait a minute, what do you have?" And then she told me, they've done. This is the other thing. All three of the major companies, Docomo, GTA, and IT&E, have put out statements on where they are. I know GTA because I'm a customer of GTA. I have GTA at home, but it's not my account. I rely on the service that I know that I have, and that's on my cell phone. When I'm at home, I don't have Wi-Fi. Again, that's not my account. So GTA has not been up. They've been down for the entire time. So I've got and so on my phone, I'm using my own personal data, right? And I have to have it on at all times for obvious reasons. So I'm like at 1 bar or less. I mean, 2 bars or less all the time, all throughout the day. So if I'm missing something, it's probably because of that. So I called GTA and I said, "Is it us? Is it me? Is it a problem?" She said, "No. The cell towers are being operated now by generation. So they're up there filling up gas and maintaining these generators so they can keep these towers running. So everybody is having an issue, right, with that. So it's just a matter of what your particular provider is doing, and they give you statistics that show, where they are, and everybody's like in the middle to above middle ground on recovery, because it's been a few days and everybody's assessing. And so that's another issue, that if you don't, it's one thing to not have power and water, it's another thing to not be entertained while you're doing it. Which kind of brings us to the legislature, which was interesting yesterday. We'll talk about that in a second. But, as we're kind of milling around and trying to get through a very difficult day under some, pretty strong temperatures. It's hot. The weather is absolutely beautiful. And if we all had aircon, we'd be admiring how great it is. But there are so many of us that are wishing for overcast days just so that you can have some shade. We hear you. We'll do whatever we can to try to get answers for you throughout the day. I don't mind that we become the brunt of it. We do, because there's nobody else to talk to. I don't mind that, because at least I can reach out to people and use kind of our influence on the radio to get answers for you. So you're more than welcome to weigh in or vent or vet or whatever it is that is bothering you. We're happy to be on the receiving end of that, to at least give you some kind of confidence that someone is in your area. Power, water, internet, whatever it is that you need. It's bottom of the hour. Let's take a quick break here for some headlines. Be right back.
The road to Adelaide continues. This time, we sit down with Republican candidates, Vice Speaker Tony Adams and E.J. Calvo. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 5th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
All right, guys. Good morning, everyone. 35 after 6 o'clock on a Friday morning. It's Wave 105 FM. This is Mornings with Patti, and we're going to hit the streets right now. We got your traffic report, which is being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive by calling 478-AUTO, or if you'd like to look at our inventory, you can check out our website if you go to GuamAutospot.com. Our friends at the Guam Police Department will continue to support Super Typhoon Bobby recovery efforts, and they are working in various ways this morning. Our friends at the Guam Police Department, along with the Guam National Guard and Customs in Quarantine, is providing traffic direction. They will be at the major intersections and junctions throughout the islands that remain without power. All right, Guam Police Department, along with the aforementioned organizations, are also providing security assistance at the 3 Guam Department of Education shelters that are currently open. GPD is also providing security at the typhoon debris disposal site. That's going to be an EPAL point, which again is open today, guys. So you will find boots on the ground from the GPD department, our friends at the Guam National Guard, and Customs and Quarantine assisting with traffic. So for all the major traffic light intersections and junctions, you will find our friends over on that back end. We are looking at traffic along Route 1 in Jigo. It's light getting along Route 3. That's going to be up and around Dedido. Traffic is moving great through that end. Route 1 hitting Tumon and Tamuning, Lower Tumon coming through Hagåtña or working your way around Nimitu as well as Speedy. You will have a smooth drive through there. Sinahanya as well as Ordot, Chalampago getting around Ordot as well as Jotnya. We're looking at Ipan. Talafofu this morning. Traffic is light, moving great through Malolo, as well as our friends along Route 10 in Manilao. Again, folks, let's just watch our speed limit. We gotta slow it down, folks. Traffic light intersections are still being worked on. Our friends at the Guam Power Authority will also be on the road, so let's just be courteous with one another. Make sure that your seatbelts are fastened and that our kids are strapped safely in the proper booster and car seats. It's a traffic report, and we are moving forward with our friends at Guam Auto Spot here on the Wave 105 FM.
Hafaday Guam, over the last 2 years, we have built strong relationships, opened new doors, and created real opportunities for our island. Those partnerships continue to grow stronger, and together, we are making meaningful progress for Guam. Early voting for 2026 primary elections begins July 9th and runs through July 25th at the Westin Resort. Tuesdays through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now is not the time to lose momentum. The foundation has been laid. The relationships have been built, and opportunities before Guam have never been greater. Your vote will help ensure we continue moving forward together. I humbly ask for your support and your vote. Let's keep building a stronger future for Guam. I'm James Moylan, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by James Moylan for Congress. David L. Camacho, Treasurer.
Close your eyes and open your senses. Introducing the all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5. Thoughtfully redesigned with a refined interior, larger 15.6-inch touchscreen display, advanced connectivity, and Mazda's signature driving experience. Enjoy elevated comfort, intuitive technology, and craftsmanship designed around you. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 Sport is available from $29,995 or just $198 per paycheck. Get pre-approved instantly at triplejguam.com.
Why be at the forefront of childhood cancer research? At St. Jude, we do it because every innovation we make is a moment we give to children with cancer everywhere. But we can't do it without you. Help St. Jude give children with cancer more moments. Moments that can last a lifetime. Learn more at stjude.org.
To kids, summer isn't just time off. It's time spent building confidence and curiosity. But when school meals pause, millions of kids lose access to the food they count on during the school year. As a neighbor-led network, Feeding America is deeply rooted in every community, ensuring summer meals continue nourishing growth and potential. Your support puts healthy food within reach, fueling the future for kids and their families. Give now at feedingamerica.org/summerhunger.
My name is Erica, and my son Kason is a patient at Shriners Children. My oldest called me and said Kason got burnt. The trauma doctor came in and said he needs to go to Shriners.
His injury was a big injury, and I think a testament to the care that we provide. He's fully functional. He's riding his dirt bike, doing all of the things that you would want him to do.
We're just so thankful that Kaysen is still here.
Go online right now to loveshriners.org.
When Guam is not heard in Washington, our families pay the price. We pay it in higher costs, in housing that feels out of reach, in food assistance put at risk, and our Manamco and neighbors with disabilities still waiting for benefits they've earned. Mary Camacho Torres is running to change that. She'll fight to lower costs, deliver fairness for our veterans and downwind communities, and make sure Guam finally has a voice that's heard. This election, vote Mary Camacho Torres for Congress. Number 1 on the ballot.
I'm Mary Camacho Torres, and I approve this message.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
All right, that sounds much like a Marvin Gaye song, at least at the beginning. Hey, it's 6:43 in the morning. Where are you at? What is the? Oh, okay. Well, you're calling on the. I don't know. You got to call me on the air because I'm on the air. Sorry, whoever doesn't know what I'm doing for a living. It is right now. It is 6:45. 6:40. Is that what it says? My phone is done. Okay, 6:43. Sorry. I don't want to rush you by 2.5 minutes. Trust, but yeah, 6:43 in the morning. Welcome to Friday, and Friday post recovery. This time last week, we were just bebopping along, trying to make plans for the weekend, right? Knowing full well we didn't know what was going to happen, but we at least knew that Saturday was a day that everybody could go out, and I don't know if there's any difference in the lines at the stores, or somebody said that, that people are out there replacing their supplies. The other day, the kids were at Payless. They're like, everybody's there. The line we went to get last night, I said, can you stop at the store to get a head of cabbage? And so they went, and she said the line was just like meandered through the aisle because there were so many people. I'm like, yeah, people are foraging for food. And they're out trying to get groceries, and they're trying to, there's a delicate balance. If you know what I'm talking about, you've lived on Guam for a while after something like this happens, that you're trying to balance between what you need to cook that's fresh and perishable and what you can't store because it's fresh and perishable. So you find yourself eating out of a lot of cans, which is why they say, buy these canned goods, these highly preserved and with preservatives, canned goods that people can, whip up without, really doing much. And that's kind of what we're simply trying to do. And we're all in various states of trying to feed our families and get on with life as easy as it is. And some people are having a harder time than others. Dee Cruz is on the line. She's been posting quite a bit on the social media. You are without power still, Dee, in Mongmong?
Yes, I am without power. Can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Okay, yeah. So we're out without power, but you're right. Corned beef and cabbage was a very popular item because cabbage doesn't really, it takes a really long time for cabbage, whether it's in the fridge or not, to rot.
Yeah.
And then of course corned beef, Palm Ox is like champion, comes in clutch.
Excuse me, ma'am. It's ox and palm.
I'm sorry.
Let's get
Oxenpalm.
the name.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's
sorry.
a lifesaver for some people. Oxenpalm, I have some.
Yeah. Yeah. It sure is. That and Vienna sausage is a champ once you fry it up. But yeah, so there's a lot of places going up. I'm just grateful that our kids have power. You know, I can go without power as long as the kids and my dad have power. Then I'm okay. You know, and you're right. We've been here before. This isn't our first rodeo, and you know, GPA is doing everything that they can, and I'm very appreciative for them. You know, working tirelessly around the clock. Mind you, half of, you know, I don't know what the numbers are on half of the crew, but they did come before the storm ended from Saipan, and I'll tell you what, when they were in Saipan, they were working around the clock. I think the first group was like 45 days straight and had to come back to swap out with the second crew. So I'm really appreciative of GPA, and you know, I'm seeing all the chat groups that I'm in. You know, there's a lot of complaints. There are some, you know, patiently posting, you know, saying that they hope that it would be our village soon. And, you know, it does suck when your neighbors across the street that's on a different grid gets powered up before you. But, you know, everybody has to understand if a line is down or a transformer, you know, explodes, then that gets assessed and then they come back to it. But they're trying to, you know, do what they can. And you know, I'm not one complaining on, you know, since Sunday, we've had no power, but, you know, it is what it is. And I was just looking for bags of ice, you know.
That was a thing yesterday, everybody looking for ice. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of the stores that are coming back up now, in MTM, there are a lot of stores there that are now packing ice. I'm not sure if Payless replenished, but they were out 2 days ago, the day before yesterday. I ended up calling all of them because they had some. But as the power comes back and everybody's going out, I'm just asking to be, you know, mindful of, you know, some people are they didn't have the structure that you and I have, right, to get through this super tropical storm winds, and so we just have to be. But the one thing that I really appreciated of our village chat group, and I'm in both the Gang Heights and MTM, is if somebody posts like they don't have water, there are folks on there that are you know, calling them out, like, you know, for instance, like Mr. Leon Guerrero, if you don't have water, you know, we've got water and we've got extra 5 gallons, you know, let us know and we'll drop it off to you. And, you know, it's just that type of village. I love it that when people reach out and they don't know who the other person is, but they're willing to give up, you know, their 5 gallons or 10-gallon tunkas to help the community. I truly appreciate that.
You know,
that part.
And there have been people, I've seen people that are on generator power, which again, Dice's point, that the gasoline is expensive, and to feed, you know, generators is a pain, because you just, if you want to continue to have the convenience of one to save, you know, all of your food supply, absolutely. If people can afford to get one and they have one and they can maintain it, is not an easy feat. So
That's
I have
true.
seen, I haven't seen it a lot. I will say that there are some people in my hood who have generator power, and I don't look at them and think that it's a thing. It's, you have resources to make your family comfortable. No one should be guilted into the fact that they have something that they've worked hard for. You shouldn't be feeling guilty because you don't. But if you are feeling guilty that you have, then share it. Then make you know, go to plan B. So I was there were some people that if I had that generator power, I would have called my neighbors and say, you guys don't have to sit in your car at 8:00 at night running your gas so that you can charge your phones or stroll the neighborhood, right?
You're absolutely right. There are some neighbors that were offering, hey, I have a generator, or I have the new EcoFlow, which is the battery-operated one, where they would charge it. It only takes about 2.5 hours to charge, and then it
run an
lasts
extension cord from that and just have the neighborhood come through. I mean, that kind of stuff.
They were doing that.
That's nice. That's good to know.
Yep, they were offering, hey, anybody wants to charge their portable batteries, please come over and, bring your extension cord and, your surge protector outlet, and you could charge, your power banks, right? And that was great. That was great to see that type of camaraderie. I love it when folks do that. And then what I saw up in Saipan, or actually in the mayor's office up north for CNMI, the mayor's offices were offering charge spots, for anyone that wanted to come in and charge their battery packs, and I thought that was pretty amazing too.
Yeah, that's the kind of spirit, and I think it's hard right now to sort of preach, and I don't want to sound like I am. We're trying to ease the stress. That's kind of all you can do, is just sort of ease the stress with whatever humor, or like I feel your pain, or whatever it is that you can do to support people's emotions. Right now we're pretty high.
Yeah.
And I think that we both will understand. I think most people will understand that these are absolutely natural feelings of frustration. You really do. But at a certain point, you really do have to keep it together, because nothing is going to change rapidly, by screaming or taking it out on somebody, or, getting on social media and then offloading. I've always said, at least in my little cluster of kids that I can command in a situation, is that when the chips are down, you have to evaluate your performance all throughout the process, so that when it's over, or you're either going to regret what you said and see what your true colors are by the way you responded, or you cannot regret a thing and just do the right thing during the time that you're going through the process. Because if you evaluate your behavior when the chips are down and you're not pleased with it, 9 times out of 10, or even 10 times out of 10, the people around you weren't pleased either. And did you help the situation, or were you part of the problem? And
and then you have closest friends that will come and tell you, and let you know. And I hope that happens. Like, hey, you kind of like were a little bit cray cray, in responding or talking about whatever. And then you have to come back to humility, and just be humble, period, because you're right, Patti, at the time of stress, and sometimes they don't think of what they're saying or how they're doing it, and then after the fact, it is right. They come to Jesus moment and be like, man, I guess I shouldn't have said that, or I could have been a little bit more helpful, in that matter. The other thing I forgot to tell you, and I wanted to say this on air, but I've been so busy, and I take off next week to Saipan. But I wanted to say, during the storm, my family members actually got, little tiny radios, and you and Power were the only ones that we were able to, listen to and get at least music and whatnot without, running, without streaming our Wi-Fi, on like
good to know.
Pandora or iTunes or something. We actually listened to you throughout majority of the storm, and then afterwards. So that was a real relief for my family members to enjoy that.
I shall pass it on to the powers that be. They always like to hear that, putting people on the front line in storms like this, or in situations, is worth the investment. If people are receiving.
Well, I don't know about that tin building that you're in. That if it was a Cat 4, then I would appreciate it from like a satellite point. But
I think I can safely say like 7 people came in and 7 people came out. So
great.
That's great. And the first typhoon, I think it was Rick who said, the first one sounded worse. 5 people came in and 5 people came out. So the survival rate in being in this building at 110 miles per hour are very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah, that I really appreciate it, and please give your staff thank you, because it did calm my family down, just to hear something on the airwaves.
People that not national people. I get it. There's something to be said about a calm voice in a storm. Absolutely. And I'm not going to sit here and try to praise what communications people are supposed to do, but that is all in the line of work. Everybody has a role, and you well know this. I mean, the Coast Guard responds before and after. This is to mitigate and as well to protect after.
Correct.
The GPA does its work. GWA does its work. We do our work, and people that run these stores, these employees that are getting minimum wage that are showing up at Core One, because
the mom and pop stores. I gotta give them praise to the mom and pop stores that are out there that opened up the moment that they needed. Folks needed anything from can to replenish, like you were talking about, everything that they used. And we didn't go through a 4-day. It was just, from one night to the next morning, Sunday night to Tuesday morning. And, the mom and pop stores. So kudos to those folks that were opened up to at least give some kids, and it's tough when, both your kids and my kids are all grown up. We don't have little ones, that we need to entertain 24/7 and, make sure there's snacks for them to have and, some water and drinks for them to have. So, it takes a lot of stress when the stores open up and offer folks, stuff to replenish. So, I know this isn't going to be our last one, and everyone's like, knock on wood, but who would have thought, I don't care how much wood, if we could go to the ephid in the jungle and knock on that, but, April, and then now, look at us, we're in July. So, when they say that this is Super El Nino, hey, this is Super El Nino, don't wait until Landon Adlet and the twins come out and say there's some invest that's approaching and we should be ready. This is your time right now to look around your house and, do your little checklist and say, okay, what could have worked? Maybe buying 2 cases of Spam wasn't, appropriate, but, if you have an excess amount of stuff, give it to your family members that didn't have, during the time, I wouldn't say, don't go hoarding, because Chamorros are the worst when it comes to, hoarding items.
You know what? I have to say, and we actually tore that one apart when we were growing up about like keeping stuff and having an oversupply of things like food and necessities. We also come from a generation of people who were the ultimate survivalists, and you can say that about only few Americans in perspective when you're looking at all of Americans. People who were living in Guam at the time, were fighting for survival. Not a typhoon, not a tidal wave, not an earthquake. It was war. And not a whole lot of people can say you're a direct descendant of somebody who was marched in an occupation on this soil, right? And then they hoarded because they didn't know where. That was survival. And I think that there's a sort of a difference in the survivalist mentality and actual hoarding where it's almost greed. That's different. That's a little bit, that's a whole lot different. I know people go ahead.
I sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say this. My dad turns 94 this year.
Bless his heart.
And he is still mobile, still walks around. He refuses to get a generator because throughout his 94 years of life, he's never had one. He's always rode out the storm and rode out the heat and rode out everything. No water, no power, right? And so with all technology and everything coming up, you would want to equip, I would want to equip my dad. My brother Mark works for Midpack Far East, and he probably could load a generator that could run the whole block on my dad's, street. But my dad refuses. He's old school like that, where he's just content and happy as long as he gets his, he boils water for his coffee in the morning and, has something to read. He is upset about no more print news. That was one thing, because he loved the newspaper. But anyways, I appreciate you, Patty. It's 7 o'clock, and I got to go. I'm out.
I'll tell you. Yeah, okay. Before, I was going to tell you, if you want to come to my house and use your internet. Use your internet. Can I use your internet? Because I'm sure that you had it with Sharon and all. But yeah, there's a lot to be said, and we're hoping that we can at least provide some little bit of a respite from all of this chaos that you might be going through. We hear you. It's 7:00. KGUM-FM in Dedido, Guam.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. The defendant in Charlie Kirk's killing told his roommate he wished he hadn't done it the day after Kirk was shot in the neck while speaking to a crowd at Utah Valley University. That's according to a recording played at a Utah court hearing today.
Did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. He started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
That's Lance Twiggs, who was also defendant Tyler Robinson's romantic partner. It was from an interview in April. The ceasefire deal is being threatened. The AP's John Gambrell reports the U.S. says it hit some 90 sites in Iran today.
That includes sites at an airport as well as missile launchers. That's according to black and white footage released by the U.S. Military Central Command. Meanwhile, in Iran, they say at least one person has been killed, a firefighter who was responding to a strike at an airport in Iranshar. They also say that bridges apparently were targeted again for the first time in the war since this ceasefire has been put in place. U.S. President Donald Trump had threatened to begin targeting infrastructure in Iran over its continued attacks on ships trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
Singer Bonnie Tyler has died. She was 75. The gravelly-voiced singer from Wales was best known for her song Total Eclipse of the Heart.
There's nothing I can do, a total eclipse of the heart. I love singing it. I never get tired of singing it. And people, when that starts, the intro, everybody's like, yeah.
Bonnie Tyler spoke to the AP in 2015. Total Eclipse of the Heart has more than 1 billion streams. Bonnie Tyler was hospitalized in Portugal in May for emergency surgery and placed in an induced coma. This is AP News. The AP's Karen Chamas reports on severe and deadly weather in parts of Asia.
Chinese officials have said at least 39 people have died in flooding after Tropical Storm Maysak brought record rain to the southern Chinese region of Guangxi. Most of the deaths were related to the breach of a dam in the city of Nanning in Guangxi, which claimed at least 26 lives, according to authorities. Video footage on Chinese state TV showed emergency services evacuating people who were stranded in a hotel and rescuing a child. Maysak brought record rainfall to the area, breaching reservoirs and stranding people for days in homes and other buildings. Drones and thousands of boats have been used in a massive relief and rescue operation to reach people trapped by the waters. About 130,000 people have been evacuated. I'm Karen Chamas.
I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
Hafaday Guam, over the last 2 years, we have built strong relationships, opened new doors, and created real opportunities for our island. Those partnerships continue to grow stronger, and together, we are making meaningful progress for Guam. Early voting for 2026 primary elections begins July 9th and runs through July 25th at the Westin Resort. Tuesdays through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now is not the time to lose momentum. The foundation has been laid, the relationships have been built, and opportunities before Guam have never been greater. Your vote will help ensure we continue moving forward together. I humbly ask for your support and your vote. Let's keep building a stronger future for Guam. I'm James Moylan, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by James Moylan for Congress. David L. Camacho, Treasurer.
Hafaday Guam, good morning, everyone. 4 minutes after 7 o'clock right now, we're hitting the streets for your traffic report. It is being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive by calling 478-AUTO, or if you'd like to take a look at our inventory, you may also visit our website if you go to GuamAutospot.com. The Guam Police Department continues to support Super Typhoon Bobby recovery efforts in various ways. You will find GPD units along with the Guam National Guard, and Customs in Quarantine is providing traffic direction at major intersections and junctions throughout the island that still remain without power. So again, guys, let's just watch our speed limit today. Again, that's our friends at the Guam Police Department and the Guam National Guard and Customs and Quarantine officers. For our friends along the central part of the island, traffic is light, moving nicely around Kmart this morning. We got no delays getting around T10. We're hopping onto Route 16. Traffic is also light along Route 16. Route 8 this morning, that's going to be in Mongmong to Mighty. We have no delays right now, as well as our folks in Hagåtña are getting around Sinahaña this morning. Ordot is just as light, as well as Manilao. So if there's anywhere on the streets of Guam that you need to be, now again would probably be your best bet. Let's just watch our speed limit. Keep your eyes on the roads. Make sure you're not texting and driving, as well as your seatbelts, guys. We got to keep our seatbelts fastened. Don't forget, folks, seatbelts are sexy. This is your traffic report here on the Wave 105 FM, and it's all being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot.
The road to Adelup is off and running. This time, we sit down with Republican candidate Speaker Frank Blass and Dr. Mary Okada. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 7th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpses of Guam radio station.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Bank Pacific has a $100 gift for all recent high school and college graduates.
Okay, I'll bite. What is it?
Open a checking account with Bank Pacific, show us you just graduated, and bingo! We'll deposit an additional $100 into your account.
What about a Visa debit card?
Yep, Visa debit card, online and mobile banking, remote deposit capture, the works.
What about for existing customers who just graduated?
They got $100 too.
Great, count me in.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots. Conditions apply, member FDIC.
Hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
The road to Adelup is set. This time, we sit down with Democrat candidates Senator Joe San Agustin and former Senator Dwayne San Nicolas. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 8th on the Wave 105 YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
One 105.1 The Wave is the talk of Guam. Start your morning with confidence right here on Mornings with Patti.
Who's that? Oh wait, that's me. Reflection so on fleek. I'm it, that's all I need. La-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Top check, I'm good, I'm golden. I got that groove unfolding. Hot beat so smooth, I'm rolling. La-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I got no stress. Sunshine in my pocket. Good mood's what I'm feeling like.
Okay. All right. Good morning to you. Welcome back to the program. We're talking about, some of the old school ways that we were doing things and back in my day and all of that. We all have these cherished memories. I'm sure that memories that my kids might have at their tender ages of 30 to 40 are, boring to somebody like Riley who's 17, and it's hard to relate. We all have our own little timestamps of memories or situations in our lives where life seemed to be simpler. And it really sort of comes back. And I'll tell you one thing that I've heard from pretty much anybody, and they don't have to be like grandmothers like ourselves, but there is a certain sort of wisdom that comes along with being able to evaluate the differences between how people deal with stressful situations. And it bleeds, and you can see it. It's generational for sure. We are living in a society of children all over the country, all over the world. This is not just a Guam thing. I'm going to bring Dice into this because she is helping to raise in a family a couple of young girls. And they are at that age where having these electronics or having this influence being fed through internet and through, the trappings and all the beauty that is the internet, and reliant on that for education and relying on that for entertainment and pretty much anything. These are instruments and devices that keep kids busy and keep them educated and all of that stuff. But back in those times where even you, Dice, and maybe even obviously even Nola and Ben, their parents, would not have been able to compare the difference between what these girls are, the passwords they know, how to run a device. They are smarter about stuff like that than even I can grasp in technology at their tender ages, right? Sure. And you look at them and go, you're pretty savvy. I mean, I looked at Dice for a lot of stuff. You're pretty savvy, but they got it down. At an age where I was still kind of playing with Barbies, not even knowing that this was Jetson stuff to me, right?
For sure.
So, and that you can't take away from them. You simply can't, because it doesn't work. But when they're exposed to things like When It Goes Away, these are incredible teachable moments where kids will have to understand that these are not crucial to absolute survival, right? And or social interaction, and the family being that first social unit, right? Good old fashioned sit around the table and under a flashlight is not detrimental to their health, right? Going back to those days where you were locked up in your house because you had no power and you had no water and you had candles, right? And I was talking to, I'll tell you, Karma, I don't know if she likes me saying this, but we were talking the other day, we're all sort of chatting on what we were doing hey, what y'all doing? What y'all doing? Car goes, she's like mopping up water, like all of us were, mopping up water. She has no power. She was washing towels and things to wring them out in order to sop up more water. And so she's like, yeah, she was like, I got my candles lit and I'm just in a space, right? And I said, watch out for those candles, Car, because candles are dangerous in situations like this. And she said, I'm a candle guru, is what she said. Candle guru. Yeah, which means I am candle certified, right? We have candles in our house, but we don't use them. We used to in emergency situations, but it sucked the life out of a room when you had a lot of them going. and any one of those could topple over at any minute. When the wind blows and it knocks over a candle and it catches on a tablecloth or something, that's a fire in the middle of the room. So flashlights are the kind of the way to go. I would prefer that than leaving a candle lit in the middle of the living room. It just feels like it's an open flame. But she made a point that she's kind of a candle guru. I was reading somebody who wrote the other day that it was in his childhood having to deal with candles during a storm where everybody knew what their threshold for pain was because you always stuck your finger in the flame. We had nothing to do. We always passed our hands over the candle to see who could hold over their naked skin onto a candle flame to determine, who was stronger or who was more tolerant to pain. We all did that to ourselves. We all played. I don't know about you. We all played with a candle wax.
No.
You know how it pools at the top of the candle?
Yeah,
We
I've
would
seen it,
pour
though.
it
I've
on
seen
each
it.
other
I've
to
seen it.
see if you could handle the pain.
That
was
Yeah, I got you. No.
You had to be candle savvy. You had to know, that you had to understand what candles do, and then when it pulls on there and it makes all that wax, there was wax art going all over the place. We were all trying to do stuff with we were trying to don't touch the wax, leave the wax, make sure, and then it would go out because the wax would burn out the flame. So you'd let it sit for a while, pull the wick up a little more, and then relight it. No. That's candle guruism at 101 right there. You just played with the candle. Now, the flashlights, you have to, when we went into the flashlight era, we were sticking the flashlights under our chin.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then so you could see your veins.
Right.
You could see under your skin, your veins and things.
I did.
Or that you would go around the house scaring everybody with the candle and you open your eyes and you're like,
Hey, stop wasting them batteries. Yeah,
we laughed the entire
You
time.
have to. You
right?
have to.
So my cousin Kathy asked me the other day, she said, how is Riley's first experience, not the first as in his life, he went there, but he was young at the time, that we had people coming in to put up shutters and we were cleaning floors and we were doing all of this stuff in Typhoon Prep, and he must have been 6 and he thought we were having a sleepover. He thought it was a party, that there was a sleepover. So we kept it looking like it was a sleepover. We just made it fun. The vibe was there. He thought it was a sleepover. We didn't want to freak him out. So we had a sleepover. We acted like, we were all teenagers in front of a candle. So his first experiences in these kinds of crises has been sort of an opportunity to hang out, right? And so everybody I was talking to said that the satisfaction of having their children all under one roof and reverting back to their childhood days with their own children watching that in action, I'm sure that every household knows what I'm talking about. Sitting around, it's the gathering spot. You go where the light is. You're not going to sit in a dark room by yourself with no power and no water or whatever, no internet. You're going to go where the light is. And the light is at that one table, where everybody gathers in and out, inside or outside, whatever. It's the table that's got all the stuff. You've got snacks there. You got candle wax to play with and all of those things. And they had all agreed. Somebody said, I almost don't want it to end. As much as we love our aircon and our cooking stoves and stuff like that, I almost don't want it to end. And even one child had said the same thing. I low-key don't want it to end because I loved being in my mom's house with all my brothers and sisters and all our families. And it wasn't Thanksgiving, and it wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm going to eat and I'm going to split, or I'm going to lay around and then I'm going to go home. It was, we're here for the night. And there was just no greater sort of that. Have all the people you love most in the world at your feet. That's kind of a cool feeling. If you had it and you're going through it now, you're the luckiest person, honestly. Maybe no power, but you're kind of lucky. I like that. Until it bleeds into your work. And then you can't do your work because of these conveniences are just not there. You got to make do with, trying to do your work when you have fewer resources or manpower to do that. And that's exactly what happened during the legislature yesterday. When they were trying to deal with this budget, and they're really trying to get this budget done in lickety-split time. They want to have it done by the 17th of July, which is just next week. And in doing so, they have time to not be dealing with the budget while they're trying to do that last stop on the campaign trail before the election, the primary election being in August. And so they want to get all the legislative business out of the way, but they're doing so at a time where we are all heavily reliant on the internet and the technology to get the work done. And this is exactly what happened at the legislature, that they couldn't talk about the $1.4 billion budget in the session because they didn't have enough resources to get these documents and all of these changes to the budget to lawmakers before they sat down to mull it over. Not everybody had the complete set, in other words. And So there was a stall. And I'm not saying it was a political thing either. It wasn't like, oh, the Democrats and the Republicans were fighting over anything. It wasn't. They hadn't even gotten to that argument. That's still yet to come. That's the main event. It just getting off the ground. Not everybody had everything. So a few of the players said, you know what, we can't possibly mull over a budget when we don't have all of the complete documents. And at one point it was about that's when it became this situation where your work has to stop because nobody can mull over or pore over documents that they just don't have. That's just a no-no. And in any other circumstance, that they'd say, we'd have to take a pause until we can get this done, or immediately, can you send it to me electronically and I'll take a look at it now. But there's an internet problem on Guam. All of the major providers are having a problem trying to get their systems up and running. And this is where it became not a fatality, but they became a casualty of that at the legislature when they all sat down to try to go over this budget on a time frame that is ticking pretty fast toward getting it done. Like I said, the main event is when they're all sitting over there talking about how we don't have, enjoying the money that the business privilege tax was giving, before it was lowered last year. And now we're coming up on October, and that's going to be lowered even more down to 4%, which is the prize number that the Republicans are seeking. We've got a budget, and they don't have enough money. Obviously, they've chopped so much of the governor's budget because they don't have enough money. And so this is what's for everything, that is. So yesterday, it's like they didn't have all the paperwork. So they were bantering back and forth. Well, not only can you not expect us not to do the work if we don't have all of the materials to make the right decisions, you can't provide the public with a vehicle by which they can witness all of this go down, because they want to know how their money is being sent. Even down to the small little fractions, they want to know what this looks like. And this is what they call sausage making. It's not pretty. In fact, it's kind of gross. And like in the end of it, you're like, I eat that? Yeah, you do. Just don't watch how it's being made. That's where the exact performance comes through with these. This is where you look at these senators and you see the kind of work that they're doing and what they're arguing for, what they're arguing against, and you can evaluate their performance. And this is where a lot of voters want to take the time to sit before hours and hours of testimony on the budget, or mulling or voting or arguing against the budget. And this is what they were doing yesterday, trying to even just get off the ground, and that couldn't happen. But what was interesting to me was a comment that was made by the speaker, Frank Blas, who didn't think that it was necessarily that crucial to the body that they couldn't get through budgets or a budget without the technology available to them. And that became a thing because he was of the opinion that back in the day, all of these documents never appeared on a computer screen or a screen that you could see just in a handheld unit. You had reams of paper that were printed out and stacked neatly at everybody's desks before they even started talking about what was on page 5,000. You knew that back and forth. You couldn't scroll past the boring parts. You had to read every single letter and number and whatever on these pages. And some people, without the benefit of scrolling, right? Skipping over parts that you'll get back to later. It was like you went page by page. That's the way. That was hard work. That was like some real hard work that senators of the day before the internet used to perform. And it was, I'm sure, just painstaking how it was for these guys. And these events on these sessions were long, and they weren't televised, and they did it during storms, and they had to use maybe candles. I don't know. I don't even remember what it looked like. I maybe conveniently forgot the struggle back in 1976 when Super Typhoon Pamela raged through here, and they were still trying to deal with a budget in that year as well before September. And there was no power for many, many months during that time. I'm pretty sure that after that happened, but this is my own personal reference to what that lawmaking might have looked like in 1976. And so this is, like, again, before internet and before all of these fancy phones that you, for the drop of a hat, you can get a pizza delivered to you in 15 minutes just with your phone. So Frank Blas Jr. was making a point. Listen, the real work, this is real work what we're doing here. We can't not do it just because we don't have the technology, because it has been done in the past, which is a viable point to make, that these things happen, in the event that we don't have this. How do we make decisions without ChatGPT? How do we make decisions when we don't have all of the paperwork in front of us? Well, you don't really make better decisions. You just make decisions based on what resources that you have. And when you're dealing clearly with the public's money, you have to have all of the resources, because the public will scream after every dollar. They will question, amounts of things. They'll question why you decided that this was a priority over another, and it's going to be on them. So this was more, I think, than a procedural disagreement. Obviously, it wasn't just about the fact that not everybody had the documents. Clearly, there's a lot of tension, because this is the most important annual bill that has to be deliberated. And they also have to have a meaningful opportunity to review it. And without all of the paperwork, they can't discuss it. So, they ended up eventually having to, stop everything until everybody had all of what they needed in order to successfully argue for or against the bill. And there's different versions of they originally, if I can remember, let me see my notes. I could watch it. I mean, there was no vehicle by which to see it, and I couldn't. There was no way to see exactly how it was going down. But they got an incorrected printed version of the budget, and that a later corrected version was sent electronically. Well, obviously, not everybody could get the electronic version of it when it was posted, and they said because of this, this disruption from the typhoons, they didn't realize what the changes were, so they obviously couldn't easily access what the updated document was, so they needed to put a pause on it. So the Republicans want to get this budget completed by the 17th of July, which is well ahead of the August 31st deadline that is imposed by the law. But they want to be able to do this for a variety of reasons. I guess you can take your pick on which one you want to use, but August 1st is the primary election. So I'm pretty clear that they want to be able to have time to get out there and press as many hands and kiss all the babies that is necessarily. And so with us not having electricity or access to internet, we're not being able to follow the debate. And $1.4 billion in public funds is kind of a big deal. So what they decided to do, what the speaker's argument is that internet access is a tool, but it isn't the thing that will help you determine the budget, because that's not how it was done in the days when they didn't have that tool. And so we could forge on. And I think that a lot of people thought, you can't just not do it because it used to be done. I mean, it's faulty logic to be able to say that you can do it because it was done in the past like that. Well, that was great because it was done in the past like that. But now we're used to an entirely different way of doing things. And if we're not going to do it this way, then we're going to have to uniformly never do it this way. But we can't pick and choose how we're going to do it in the middle of the time that we're doing it. And so I understand that Blas's point is that we shouldn't stop everything just because we don't have internet. We can get these documents to you. You can pour through them and we can make it happen. We just you got to be resolved to be able to do it. You got to be committed to the process. If you want to get it done, it can be done. And others are saying, well, I mean, that's kind of overlooking how today's legislature and lawmaking in this country, in this world, actually works, because we are used to digital drafts of bills that we can press a button and look at the substitute versions when they change so rapidly. If it changes on paper, if it is on paper and it changes electronically, and then you have to make a decision. You don't know what it said electronically if you don't have access to the electronics, right? So these, when they're talking about these shared online drives, not everybody's going to get them. They're drives where everybody could tap into it and then look up the information and then print it out if they want it or have it on hand, but at least they know that it's there. If you don't have access to it, then you are at a disadvantage when it comes time to actually discuss it and you don't have access to it. So, I think he's basically saying, go back to old school, man. That's the way you did it. Some of you youngins in this legislature might be used to a certain way, but some of them are actually old enough to know the technology. And the fact is that when you're going to be a legislator in Guam, you're going to have to learn what their systems are technically if you want to be in the loop. Otherwise, you could be like they were in the old school and ask for everything to be printed out and pour through that at late night at home if you don't want to go the route. But there's a lot of email. There's a lot of electronic communication that happens, that to just dismiss it at a time like this when it's heavily reliant and you want to get through it in a time, a time frame that's literally a little more than a week away. This is where the technology comes in handy because it's faster and more efficient. So they're going to, if they're going to distribute it, all the corrected versions primarily through electronic means, and that's going to be the way that they do it, then the internet access becomes more than just a convenience at this point. It becomes part of the infrastructure, and that is necessary for legislators to do their jobs effectively. And I don't think that anybody's going to disagree with that, especially those who said, "I need a minute." I may be past young enough to not know what they used to do it in the past, but this is the only way I know how to do it. So how do we do it? And I can't pour through 1,000 pages of a corrected version of something and have a viable argument on the floor when it comes time for my performance to be evaluated, because I'm just going to look like the dummy in the room. GPA is on the line with Simon Satt. Well, he's a commissioner for the utilities, but I specifically requested the discussion on GPA, although GWA is actually doing quite a bit of work to restore more people than GPA at their rate can, and I guess that's an obvious reason why. Si, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Patty. We finally on Ipoh Road. We finally got power back last night.
Good.
We had some power, but there was a substation issue, and the feeder line was not giving up full voltage. And which is sort of par for the course in typhoon recovery. Even as you energize things, you find out what, if anything, is broken next, right? But they were able to fix all that. And I haven't seen the updated report this morning. My belief is that I still. As of yesterday, anyway, all the substations were on, which is the first major step, and lots more feeders are being fed. The load was much higher from the last update, and so the load means what we're used to providing, and there, as you're seeing in some of those updates, well, we're up to 100 megawatts. We're trying to shoot for usually 255 at this time of day, right? As you know, peak morning, peak evening. You've been through the drill.
So the current peak demand, I think at last report, was like 96 megawatts, and the target, like you said, is like 255. So that's what you're talking about peak demand, the load.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the next update is coming to you shortly. They're already on it, and the crews worked till midnight, I believe, and then they're back at it at 6 a.m. So they're out there, and I had to apologize to Jennifer Sablon, the acting GM. I said, I'm sorry, I know so many people, but can you also check on this address, that address, this village, this part of the village, that part of the village? I feel bad for everybody. Those that have power are grateful. Those that don't have power are rightfully frustrated. GPA is doing the best they can. FEMA is helping us with water. Just because we fixed the generators before the typhoon doesn't mean Mother Nature and the typhoon isn't going to hurt some of the generators. So some of the well generators were damaged, lost power. Now we have more generators on island power, and FEMA's bringing us more generators today to beef up the water generators that are not on island power, which will help build back pressure. And of course, as people are recovering, the first thing they do is use water, right? Rightfully so, for whatever their family or their businesses need. But we're still in the recovery mode. And by the way, I thank you. I had never heard the word soliloquy before 8 a.m. in the morning since college. And I'm not even sure what soliloquy I missed, because between you and Ray, I'm kind of listening to my brother and my sister going, okay, what's happening? In case I don't know what's happening. Was there a customer? What was the soliloquy? I heard the budget soliloquy. Which, having been there too, I'm going, okay, there's no crying in baseball. Get with it, boys.
Yeah.
You're paid a lot of money to figure it out. But you're right. I mean, okay, 1,000 pages is 1,000 pages. Out of respect for colleagues, you want to give them the time to do it. I guess that's what they decided to do. But I'm so glad, we've gone through life where it's now September 30th and the legislature is almost passing the budget, right? And they've disciplined themselves now in many recent years now for quite a while to say, look, let's get it done. It's a budget, and if life changes and you got to change the budget, that's what delete, erase, and pencil erasers used to be for. And you can fix things, and that's what they're called amendments for, right? You can change it, but at least they try to get that budget out to set the direction. And it's an interesting budgeting year, obviously, because revenues, especially from tourism, it's still a challenge, and still trying to figure that out.
And the BPT
and
the BPT. Clearly those are two driving factors. I mean, well, the soliloquy was not as famous as to be or not to be, but it was actually sort of a soliloquy on the psychology, if you will. And I'm not one, but clearly the psychology that we all become very versed at, the wiser that we get when we are faced with these stressful situations. The more seasoned people, either age or by experience, understand sometimes how to make it easier for you to cope. And GPA will draw out the most vile angst that people, reserve for times like this.
We're all stupid people doing nothing. I got it.
Exactly. And a lot of it, and these are natural feelings. I'm not saying that it's not valid for anybody to absolutely feel that way. I think that directing it, though, to people whose jobs it is to do the work. You might be out there in a bucket truck without headphones listening to people yelling at you, and you might only see folks that are kind enough to come out and bring you water or soda and then try to just limit the conversation to you're doing a good job without asking them too many questions. What they don't hear, which is unfair, is I'm out here in the rain and there's a little bit of wind going and I'm in a bucket truck dealing with stuff that you don't even touch a light bulb without putting shoes on. And then you're telling me I'm not doing my job. That kind of stings for families who have to hear their loved ones being, raptured while they're doing their work.
And many of these families don't have power yet either. They leave their own homes in the dark to make sure other people get power. But the crews are professionals. The men and women that do it, they get it. In fact, I'm with our job at our level is to listen to the complaints and deal with the public. Those pros are already on bucket trucks, climbing poles, talking to FEMA and trying to get the 8 trucks back from Saipan. Some of it, like you pointed out, some of the criticism about, why did we help Saipan? I said, well, we always help each other. And Bobby didn't send an email that, hey, in 10 days I'm coming, please get the trucks back from Saipan. We were still helping Saipan recover from Sinulaku. That's it. Life, as you know better than most, life gives you things the unexpected. And really the test of life is how you deal with it. And sometimes when I see these criticisms, I say, well, that tells me a lot more about you, the critic, than it does the ones that are criticized. That I find in many criticisms, many of which are valid, but some of them I'm going, okay, that tells me a lot more about you than it does about me. But
yeah.
God bless you. The good Lord's put you here, and apparently you're struggling to handle some of his tests.
Well,
but I wish you well.
Yeah, I mean, aside from and outside of the emotions, what I wanted to get you on is to just talk to us about the real sort of truth as it is. The truth about, and I don't want to compare it to the past because we all look like Cadillacs compared to the past. I want people to understand that this is not a pecking order. This is not, hey, there's a reasonable amount of, hey, can you hook me up kind of stuff. That to me is minute unless you're charging up, dotted families in various villages and not, and you're not energizing their neighbors. I mean, that's obvious hookups, but I'm saying literal hookups. I'm saying, how do you prioritize if Malesu and Agate are not having power, but Tumon does? So clearly something's more important than the other in the eyes of the ratepayer.
Right. But I don't expect them to all remember this, but when Governor Carl was still governor, we hardened San Vitor's Road to get to the hospital from a GPA generator so that the hospital could always have island power. So that was a decision made by people we elected that said, hey, we got to keep that hospital running. So that's why they were put underground and other places weren't, because we've estimated it'll be $7 billion to underground all of Guam. Even in the United States, they're not all underground. You hear about the winter storms or a tornado knocking lines off poles, right? And so that's a decision we make for the community. Say, well, and I did the math. It was something like we would have added $500 a month to your existing power bill for the last 30 years if we got $7 billion, 30 years ago. And that's just not, some communities can't do it. All of the United States is not underground for exactly those same reasons. The economics don't work for that particular area. And so you deal with what you have, and which is life, right? You deal with what you have and make the best of it. Well, you have two choices. You can make the best of it or you can make the worst of it. Thank God we live here with a very resilient people, although as we've lamented, we're getting tired of being so resilient. We live with good people. The huge majority, bigger than the current load at GPA, are good, kind people that help each other out. But, humans are, as we get older, Patty, we learn more and more humans are funny people, right? And some humans are very unhappy. And some humans have had bad things happen to them, even though they're good people, right? And that's happened to all of us in every family. But it's how you deal with it. And at this point, the professionals at GPA are doing everything they can from all the experience they have to get your power back on as soon as possible. And those that have already gotten power back, what's it been? 3 days since Core 1 was since Core 1 was declared, right? Was it Monday or my days are all running together, 4 days, right? But the guys couldn't even get on.
It was Sunday,
bucket trucks till Tuesday, right? And the wind blew Monday, and they finally got out there Tuesday because they weren't going to climb poles on Monday. That you're threatening their lives, right? And they stood down. But it's now since Tuesday, basically day 3 of recovery, and I think we're further ahead than Sinlaku. We were lucky, and you and I talked about this. Sinlaku was not as windy, but much slower, so it hung around the hood longer, right? And that wreaks havoc in a different way. Bobby was much stronger, but it zipped right through here, right? And unfortunately, clobbered Rhoda and hurt Saipan again. We've been lucky the last 2 typhoons, but we also know sometimes we're going to be directly hit, and everyone just needs to pull together and be as supportive as they can. And everyone's different. I've been brought up to not only think of our families and ourselves, but to think of the community. That we're all in it together, and therefore try to be patient with each other. Whether it's a traffic light or GPA. Right?
Yeah, I totally 1,000% agree with all of it. Here's the frustration, and I can speak for myself professionally in the frustration. I'm not going to bash anybody who is currently doing the job. I think that the procedure might have changed, and it might be something that GPA can look into about things like this. The days of people like Patti Longdiego and Art Perez, you couldn't get them off the phone when it came to stuff like this. When the crisis was hit, they knew, what areas that was dealing with. And so what we're getting right now is an update like every 24 hours because they're updating as they can, but they said the big update will come like in the morning. But throughout the day, they do, restoration sort of updates. I was pursuing to have someone come on the radio an hour, tops, an hour and a half if they were willing to do that. I only have 2 phone lines, so it wasn't going to be an onslaught of people that were going to, but somebody to just go through it play by play. Like, this is where we are today. And then if we got to you last night, well, and this is a situation, they energized my sister. They're the $1 million homes. I'm the one next door. My power went on before there. So clearly there's no prioritizing when it comes to haves and haves not. But everybody was on except for her and the doctor across the street. Everybody was on. So obviously she had a problem. And so, she was able to get somebody out there, last night. But there's a period of silence where people like that, and it's not just because she's my sister, there are plenty of people like that, where there's a period of silence that they can't get through. If you call them, it's like, what's your problem? And then it's a recording. Tell us what it is. Okay, stand in line. You're in queue. I need a body, is what I was saying. That's like addressed where you are today. What are you doing today? Where are you? I mean, I know you're everywhere, but can I expect that I saw the light go on at St. Anthony? Can I expect that I'm next? Or then I see the bucket truck and ass and I'm like, dang, what happened, right? And we're following bucket trucks, Simon.
I get it. But even if we had all 23 bucket trucks, there's 19 villages, there's 700 miles of wire. You can't be everywhere all at
absolutely.
once. You get there, and the logic is get this. If you don't get the substations energized, you're not going to get anybody energized.
True,
so if you didn't see bucket trucks in the first few days, they were all at the substations. But I think, your point is well made, and I think what I do like is, when you're 90% or 80% no power, you can't tell when Mrs. Cruz on 123 E-Power Road is going to get power. You can't get that specific. Everybody's out of power. But as you whittle it down, now you're seeing the more refined and the better feedback. And unfortunately, Patty, you and I grew up in radio and TV, but the world has changed. The best way to communicate with thousands of people is through social media.
No, I get it.
I
absolutely get it. But
so that's why we don't send someone to be on your show for an hour. Not that you would really want them for an hour, but I think what's more important. You and I are having a conversation, but I can appreciate even the comms team. They're all hands on deck. They went to bed at midnight, 1 o'clock. They're back this morning preparing whatever this next update is. And these updates, I think, will finally get better. Now we're getting, hey, I don't see my village or I don't see my circuit.
Right.
When we were growing up, what's a circuit?
Yeah, no. My point is absolutely it's going to get better because there are fewer people complaining. I'm saying that while they're complaining, we need to up the game is what I'm saying. If we're upping the game on my end, if I'm saying call me and I'll figure out where I can get some help for you, or at least where they just want to know, am I next? Am I next tomorrow?
I appreciate that, but I have to say honestly that people aren't listening to radio like you and I used to. They're not listening to you and Ray as much, but they're on social media, and that's where the information is being provided. And that's not just us. I see it in the industry. That's where communications has migrated beyond radio. And you're not just on radio, you're on everything, right? On all platforms. I can see you, I can listen to you. So it's a migration, and I still believe, and people will disagree with me, it's okay. But when you're at 80 or 90% or 60%, specificity is not the issue at that point. We're trying to get major circuits back on because that will get most people on faster. Then we can be more specific, like the kind of info. So it's kind of when the info is better, we provide the info we can at the granular level that we can, and we get more granular as we get more successful, right? But when you're talking about Guam is 80% out of power, it's really, to me, it's kind of like, well, so I don't know when Simon's power is going to come back at his house because almost everybody has no power. And you got to let GPA, we don't want to put out bad information, especially, and at that point we're just saying, hey, you're 80% out of power. We'll tell you more as we restore power. Now they can tell you more. And I think it's kind of a migration from macro data to micro data, and now more specificity. I'll chat with them about more frequent updates, but they also want to make sure, updating every 2 hours, sometimes the change doesn't occur that fast, right? Oh, we energized 89 more houses in this village. I like the formats we use now that says these are the villages. I'm sensitive to say, hey, I don't see my village. And the fact that people even know their circuits, well, okay, that's a migration of information exchange with ratepayers who now say, wow, I know when my circuit is. Now I'm looking, and you're a great example. You're able to read that stuff and go, hey, I don't see this village, or I don't see my circuit. And then you communicate, as you always do with everybody, to tell them as best you can. But, I appreciate the constructive feedback from you. And, we'll talk with our team about, trying to be better. But all my years of doing this, I'm going, when you got 90% of anything it's to deal with, it's hard to tell when percentile 32 is going to get affected, right? You got to
I understand the overall view. When an island is out and somebody says, when's my power going on? It's a mystery of life. I get that. But when it comes down to all of the substations are at 100%, we're 49% here and we're 48% here, then that means I'm in some sort of specified zone where I'm half in and I'm half out. That's where I'm saying where it's crucial, where people are saying, okay, I see power going on. I just want to know, when you tell us that we're load shedding, I know that my area is going to be hit between 6 and 8. And I know it's going to come up again between 9 and 12. When the power is being worked on, you're clearly in specified areas because it's the job, right? They're telling you where you're dispatched. So, today we're concentrating, and you've done it specifically. I'm not saying that everything, I'm not even criticizing what's saying. I'm just saying, how can we enhance the information to better be exact, try to be exact. If they're energizing one particular area, am I allowed to think that, okay, I might be next? If they had a scout come and they saw my feeders, circuits, and everything look good, can I say because they're at Payless that I'm next? Or when the truck leaves and goes to Aspen, I'm like, am I in line again? You know what I mean? This is crucial information.
Well, but I think when you see trucks, that's always a good sign. So, good example. We saw trucks 2 evenings ago scope our street, but we didn't get power till 5 o'clock yesterday. So part of it is assessment. First off, teams are out there assessing. The last thing we want to do is send out crews that go, what do I need to take out there? I don't know. I haven't looked. Well, that's what the assessment is for. Well, what is broken? What do you need to fix what's broken, right? And so the first crews you're seeing are usually assessments, and they're not there to turn on the lights. I mean, we all got excited. Oh, there's a GPA truck. I said, I think they're just checking on what's still on or off or what's not broken. And sure enough, they didn't come back. The power didn't come back for almost 18 hours. But they needed that assessment to determine where damage was. And it turned out when the power came back on Ypres Road yesterday, it was not full voltage. So we had to shut off breakers. GPA, I told everybody on the say, shut off your breaker. It's, don't turn on the fridge and protect because it's not full voltage. And it took them a while to figure out where that one break was in that feeder, right? Feeder comes from substations. Feeders go to people. And they finally found it. But it took them, almost 24 hours to go from driving down the street to turning it on. And then when they did turn it on, they go, oops, it's still not right. They turned it off. 2 hours later, they got it back on. And I think that, unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to actually fixing stuff, right? But anyway, my soliloquy is going on way too long, and it's your show, so.
Well, I invited you, so that's how I treat my guests with that kind of affordability. I'll tell you, I to the point about us, being on the radio, that it's an age-old problem when you are in the media. You don't know who's listening. You can't gauge who it is. You don't know who's engaging. And I will tell you that I will probably have more listeners during a time where there's no electricity than I will have followers on social media.
Oh, amen. And
so this is when social.
Well, I listen to you on a AM. I have still the old AM/FM radio where you flick the switch and a little light goes on, and then you're there. So I've always kept that. I'm old school that way, but you point out exactly why you should be old school, because sometimes radio, the conventional radio, is the only way to hear things. At least with social media now, you have many more platforms, because sometimes your antenna goes down on the radio side, but you're still able to communicate with us through the mediums
And that's
you're
my
able
point.
to be on.
And that's my only point to rebut what you said. Having a person on the radio isn't as effective in GPA's eyes than having social media where the masses can take part in the conversation. I'm saying if I had a person on the radio right now, we would have a discussion about this and answer some of the more specific questions that maybe that you're not equipped to answer, not having a schedule. But it would benefit people because they could get in their cars and charge their phone and listen to the radio. They would not be able to do it on the computer. So this is where a face-to-face comes in handy. And I still am a staunch supporter of the medium, and that radio is effective in times of emergency. And I believe this is exactly what it is, a time of emergency. So maybe there's a
Well, let me share one more thing I shared with Ray, and I mentioned you when I talked to Ray. I said, you two are carrying on a legacy started by John Anderson. Then I really thought of even Bill Gibson, right, Ray's dad, where, even if you don't have information, Patty, you're just that calming voice. You're just that person. There's some people that you're the only person that they can hear from, right, for whatever reasons, right? And that I compliment you and just, are grateful for people like you, Ray. And you're a first responder, too. You're the one that, there's CNN and there's PNN, right, Patty? Right? And I like Patty more than CNN. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the constructive feedback, and we'll continue to work harder to be as specific as we can, as soon as we can. And,
I'm pretty sure Ray, my colleague, and definitely a really good friend of mine will agree that in times like this, we're only as good as the information can come. I'm a firm believer that if you don't have the right information coming from the right attributable source, sometimes the speculation is worse than the truth. And so I appreciate the kudos, but my whole point is talking face to face has always been, and we're old school like that. Talking face to face is so much greater in value to people who are sitting alone right now in the dark without water, who can't even hear that I'm championing for them to be able to listen to the radio and hear and be informed in a conversation that will go away because they don't have power to be able to listen to it, and that's unfortunate. So hopefully,
point well made. But of course, even if I was sitting with you face to face, you just said there's some people that are still going to be unable to listen to you for whatever reason.
But that's not a reason not to do it.
Right?
I know, but it's not a reason not to do it. Is my point. Just because we're not going to reach everybody isn't a reason not to do it.
True. But I think from the GPA point of view, how many radio stations would love to have us sit with them all day to update them? And
I don't know. I don't know, but I know I do.
Plenty.
I do.
There's enough that, in fairness to all of you, right? We just say, look, it's better. We have found it much better even if it creates the criticism that you rightfully are pointing out. We're finding it way more effective to reach people now using the social media platforms versus the traditional medias that you and I grew up with. It's just the evolution of the way the planet has become smaller due to the improvements in communication. And I don't know how many people have a radio with batteries still in, but I do. But I'm 70 years old.
Well, thanks for the perspective. It's good to know that. It's good to have that question answered. I appreciate it. I'm at the top of the hour, Si. Thanks for the time.
You're the best, Patty. Have a great weekend,
right,
and hope everybody's recovery gets better as soon as possible. Everyone take care. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Patty.
Take good care. We are coming up on the top of the hour. We'll find out what's happening nationally, because there's still a lot more happening than our little power problems over here. They've got bigger issues over there, and I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about it. We also have invited Speaker Frank Blas to join us on the air, so he'll be able to do that coming up in just a few minutes, a little bit after 8, so we can give him more time to talk about the budget and all things that are happening in these last several weeks before a very crucial date, and that is the primaries that are ahead of us. It is time to get to the AP news, and of course we got your traffic. It is a Friday, and everybody is kind of going back to work, right? Everything is open at this point, so except for the schools. So if you're headed that way to work, we'll tell you what the traffic is. Probably not looking as bad as it might have been an hour ago, but we'll find out from Dice, who is ahead next after the AP News. We are KGUM-FM. It's 8 a.m. We'll be right back.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. A video was played in court in Utah. The AP's Hannah Schoenbaum reports the roommate and romantic partner of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk, said Robinson
had said he wishes he hadn't done it. Prosecutors played parts of a video of their recorded interview with the roommate, Lance Twiggs, on the fourth day of a week-long preliminary hearing in the case. They also showed text messages between Robinson and Twiggs, Discord messages, and a handwritten letter they allege Robinson left for Twiggs, confessing to the crime and professing his love for Twiggs.
A judge must decide whether there's enough evidence to try Robinson. A former Olympic canoe racer pleaded not guilty to a felony charge in D.C. of deliberately damaging the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. David Hearn, who competed in 3 Summer Olympics, entered the plea in D.C. Superior Court. Norm Eisen is Hearn's attorney.
We will reserve questions about exactly what happened for the trial. That is what the justice system is for. It is not a crime to touch the reflecting pool, to touch water in the United States of America.
The pool renovation had been riddled with problems. President Trump has said it's the work of vandals. Mexico plans to request criminal charges over the deaths of 17 Mexicans in ICE custody or during immigration operations under the Trump administration. A South Florida airport officially changed its name to the President Donald J. Trump International Airport. Signs for the Palm Beach International Airport have been removed, while new signs have been unveiled. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has announced a deal with the U.S. to buy American-made Tomahawk cruise missiles and station them in Germany. Sales of previously occupied homes slowed last month, but a key measure of home prices climbed to an all-time high, adding to prospective home buyers' affordability challenges. Stocks are higher at the closing bell. This is AP News. As Europe grapples with severe heat, the AP's Karen Shamus reports it's looking a lot like Christmas in Denmark.
Dozens of people dressed as Santa, Mrs. Claus and elves from around the world have descended on Aalborg, Denmark's 4th largest city, for the nation's annual World Santa Claus Congress. It's a colourful midsummer tradition that has delighted onlookers since 1957. The event was created to entertain children, but became a popular gathering for Santas who appear in stores and shopping malls over the festive period. For Simon Brons, chairman of Danish Santa Claus Guild, the event is proof that the festive spirit isn't just for Christmas.
Christmas is not a season. It's a feeling you have in your stomach. So if you want, you can have Christmas the whole year.
I'm Karen Shamas.
And I'm Ed Donahue. AP News.
When Guam is not heard in Washington, our families pay the price. We pay it in higher costs, in housing that feels out of reach, in food assistance put at risk, and our Manamco and neighbors with disabilities still waiting for benefits they've earned. Mary Camacho Torres is running to change that. She'll fight to lower costs, deliver fairness for our veterans and downwind communities, and make sure Guam finally has a voice that's heard. This election, vote Mary Camacho Torres for Congress, #1 on the ballot.
I'm Mary Camacho Torres, and I approve this message.
Paid for by the Torres for Congress Committee.
Day, Guam. Good morning, guys. It's Mornings with Patti on the Wave 105 FM. 2 minutes after 8 o'clock this morning. And the show is being brought to you by our friends at Subway. Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at SubwayPacific.com for pickup at your convenience or for delivery right at your doorstep. Online ordering at SubwayPacific.com is powered by Good To Go. We deliver at Subway. You gotta refresh to be fresh. Bank Pacific, where others place branches, we place roots. Visit bankpacific.com today. GTA, we start with you. Mobile gas stations, turn every fuel stop into rewards with Mobile Smiles. Download the app today for exclusive offers and faster rewards at the pump. Mobile Smiles, fuel up and save. Take Care Insurance Company, our island, your health plan. Triple J Auto Group, close your eyes and open your senses. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 is here. From $29,995 or $198 per paycheck for qualified buyers. That's Triple J Mazda. The Agania Shopping Center. Shop, dine, and relax at the Agania Shopping Center. Your destination for food, fun, and local favorites all year long. Pat's Tinting and Detailing for all your special interior cleaning. Call 483-7522. Code 1 Store is your tactical shop for public safety and everyday gear, serving Guam since 1999. Shop 511 Tactical and Condor Outdoor, plus steel toe footwear. Stop by Code 1 Store today. And Chili's Grill and Bar. More life, great food, and memories happen here. Good morning, Guam, and welcome back. You are tuned in to Mornings with Patti right here on the Wave 105 FM, streaming live and online at wave105.com. Like, subscribe, and do follow our YouTube channel. That is Wave 105 FM. 4 minutes after 8 o'clock in the morning. Good morning, Guam, and welcome back.
Rise and shine with Roots Breakfast Buffet. Served daily from 6:30 to 9:30 a.m. at Guam Plaza Resort. Seniors enjoy 15% off for a limited time. Save your spot now. Call 671-649-7760 to reserve.
Code 1 Store, your one-stop shop for public safety and everyday gear. Shop trusted brands with tactical pouches, apparel, and footwear. Serving Guam since 1999. Celebrate liberation with our special giveaway happening now. Code 1 Store. Gear up today.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
All right, friends. Hop a day, everyone. Good morning and welcome back. Let's go ahead and hit the streets right now with your traffic report for you, being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive. All you got to do is give us a call at 478-AUTO, or if you'd like to look at our inventory, you may also visit our website if you go to GuamAutospot.com. The Guam Police Department continues to support Super Typhoon Bobby recovery efforts in various ways. Our friends at the Guam Police Department, along with the Guam National Guard and Customs and Quarantine, are providing traffic direction at major intersection and junctions this morning and throughout the afternoon for all of us here on Guam that still remain without power. So we would like to remind everyone to please watch your speed limit this morning. We've got to allow braking distance between ourselves and the vehicle in front of us. Eyes on the roads, not on the phones. No texting and driving on the streets of Guam. Coming around Ukidu this morning, we got some north and southbound. That's going to be along Route 3. Additional delays at the Guam Regional Medical City, that traffic light intersection right there. West Marine Corps Drive up and around the Dedido precinct. We're looking at that fire station, some north and southbound traffic. It looks like Lada traffic is light. East Sang Sung Road is moving nicely. Machechi Road is beginning to pick up, as well as our friends along Bello Road this morning. Route 16, we have traffic flowing from Harmon, climbing up into Barragata, north and southbound, outside Department of Revenue and Taxation. No delays getting around Teagan this morning. However, you will find some traffic around Village Donkey ITC intersection, and that's going to be on South Marine Corps Drive. And for our friends coming up and around Jack in the Box, as well as Bank Pacific, that will be along Governor Carlos Camacho Road, some north and southbound there, as well as our friends in Hagåtña. So again, folks, let's keep our eyes on the roads, not on the phones. No texting and driving. It is a Friday. And again, don't forget the GPD units, along with Guam National Guard and Customs and Quarantine, providing traffic direction at our major intersections this morning as well as this afternoon. It's your traffic report here on the Wave 105 FM. We're moving forward with our friends at Guam Auto Spot.
Military officer, law enforcer, policymaker. Service has been the cornerstone of Congressman James Moylan's life. James Moylan swore to protect America as an officer in the United States Army. As a parole officer, James worked with families affected by substance abuse and domestic violence. He was elected to the 35th and 36th Guam legislatures, and now James Moylan represents Guam's needs in our nation's capital as a member of the United States Congress. Congressman Moylan has fought for more than $3 billion for Guam, including almost $1 billion in military construction and roads, and law enforcement and first responder vehicles and equipment. Moylan is also working vigorously on standing up a regional office right here on Guam, a game changer for our 25,000 plus veterans, 40 years and 4 oaths. dedicated, resilient, trustworthy, and proven. That's James Moylan. Re-elect James Moylan for Congress. Moylan works.
I'm James Moylan, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by James Moylan for Congress. David L. Camacho, Treasurer.
The road to Adaloop continues. This time, we sit down with Republican candidates. Vice Speaker Tony Atta and E.J. Calvo. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 5th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing is bringing the shine this July with our Liberation Detailing Specials, starting at $110. From Jigo to Malesu, we got you covered. Call 647-SLAM or WhatsApp 483-7522. Viva Guam!
Guam is building the future, and the right conversations start here. SAME Guam Post invites you to the 2026 Industry Forum happening July 28 through 30 at the Dusitani Resort. Join military, government, and industry leaders as they come together to discuss Guam's future in infrastructure, resilience, and regional growth. This premier event connects you to Guam's next generation of infrastructure. Registration is open. Visit GuamIndustryForum.com. The 2026 SAME Industry Forum, delivering Indo-Pacific readiness.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
Feeling hot, summer smoke alarm. Mirror says, woo, gonna do some harm. I'm the one, yeah, I bring the charm. Step aside, let a real one through. Thunder in my walk, lightning in my shoes. Just to watch, baby, I'm the view.
105.1 The Wave is the talk of Guam. Keep that good vibe going right here on Mornings with Patti.
All right. Okay. My friend just she has no power, but I have water. Everybody agrees. Is it a consensus that we all would rather have water than power?
Come on. I would rather.
You would rather have water than power?
I'd rather have water over power.
Yeah.
I would die. Man, look, so I'm talking sanitation here. Let's just, come on, people. Let's do the math.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those that don't got water, I can only imagine, man. That's got to hurt.
You know what, the thing is that we all... When she says I can only imagine, she's not saying that because we always say stuff like I can only imagine. We have had it. I mean, more often than not, we have had all of the utilities. More often than not, I've had both down at the same time. Then I've had one on.
For sure.
So and it really, like I said, it's a crapshoot. And so I just want to address something because I'm getting a lot of people who are saying stuff like they weren't happy kind of about the PR job that Simon Sanchez just did. He was basically saying long are the days that are gone, because when you mention people like John Anderson, then we're talking about a long time ago when radio was the only source of communication. I'm not just making a pitch for our stations. I'm like, it as a medium, it was the most spontaneous, and it was really the most reliable medium, because you can get on at any time. You didn't need to go through a whole lot. You didn't have to print anything to get her done. You could communicate with people directly by switch. And so, yeah, the heyday of talk radio, or the heyday in radio, absolutely has been replaced a lot by social media. And while he's singing the praises of what it used to look like and how we engaged as a society through this one medium of radio, and then as television, was going live, we had more opportunities for them. It takes a lot more to get somebody on a TV screen back in the day than it did on a radio, and it took a lot. You didn't have newspapers that could deliver a newspaper online like we have now. So the spontaneity factor is not unique to just radio. So I get that, and so he's trying to tell me that the medium has lost so much of its influence on people's decisions or entertainment than it does in social media. And I beg to differ. In times of emergency or when you need immediate information, people will turn to the most available thing to them. And when you have power outages, social media isn't it. It just isn't it. So they may be talking about solving the world's problems and Jesus has just landed in a desert in Nevada. You're not going to know it because your power is out.
Right.
But you may know it if we're on the radio. So to his point, I understand the significance of radio might have been replaced with the more sound technology. I know there's a better word for immediate technology. I get it. I'm not, I'm not living in la la land. I understand. It's an age-old problem. Like I said, it's an age-old problem for people who are invested in a business like radio. You don't know who's listening. You can only tell who's listening by the people who tell you on a daily basis. But I'm not going to a sales meeting and saying 15 people came up to me in 15 minutes at Payless. That's not, you can't take that to an advertiser and say, Patti said she talked to 15 people in 15 minutes. I probably talked to 30 people in 15 minutes. But that's not a selling point. That's not, I can't go to an advertiser and ask for money because of that. The advertiser has to know that they've listened to it and they know what the product is, the value of it, right? So that's always an age-old situation. It's how many people are actually listening to you? And you don't know until they engage. I've had 2 phone calls today, and both of them were because of an interview. Are there thousands of people trying to call me on my 2 lines to tell me, but are they listening? Probably. So the respect for the fact that information has to be immediate in times of this. The danger of social media is that anybody can tell you what's happening, and it may not even be true. And it also may not have been fact-checked. Even if part of it was true, it may not even be fact-checked. There are people that have a variety of places where they get resources and they swear by them. I was looking at Windy, and the typhoon is closer and more severe than the National Weather Service is telling me. Therefore, I'm going to go with Windy because Windy is saying what I think I should be hearing. The National Weather Service isn't getting it right. That's what you call a meteorologist. It's a meteorologist. It's not a meteorologist. It's a meteorologist. That's a person who's in the media, has know of it, but they don't have any authority to tell you what to do in the event of an emergency. So you don't, and I'm not saying that false information can't be spread in media. Believe me, I am not that stupid to think that everybody who gets up on any radio station or any media is telling the truth or doesn't have an agenda. But that's what reputations are built upon. So, social media plays a huge part in public communication. Undeniable, 1,000%. We are products of that now. But I think that as he's talking about the good old days of good communication, just because you're getting a lot of your news on TikTok doesn't mean that talking to a person in person doesn't have its value. And when more people are asking questions than they're getting answers, immediacy and the efficiency of that is everything to them. Because you're only as good as the customer is satisfied with your performance. And the same goes for the voting public. You're only as good as the people think that you are. And you have to prove that all the time. And GPA today, while they are doing a fantastic job, I think that Simon Sanchez, in his assessment of people consuming information at a time when they need it most, has to go a little bit more than just posting it on social media. And it's obvious because they're hungry. And no, I take that back. They're famished for information, and they're frustrated because they're not getting it, which is far more to them a larger problem than actually not having the power, is the fact that nobody is hearing you say that, hey, what about me over here? I get it. The truck moved to a different place. Tell me why. Just tell me why. And then I'll understand it. Then I'll stop asking about it. They had to go somewhere else. That's not on the schedule. Tell me when I am on the schedule. Do you know? Because back in the day when we had people like people in the communications department, and I can't compare it to the way and what they're doing now. That's not my job. But when we didn't have social media, they were on the radio ad nauseum. I mean, it was like, Art Paris is on the line again. He was just on 15 minutes ago. Patti Londiego again. But that's what they did. A little of that could go a long way. That's all my point was. A little of that cannot be, you can't dismiss that technology as old as it is, because it's standing face to face is far more valuable than telling me over, several forwarded many times messages that come off of WhatsApp. Speaker Frank Bloss Jr., he knows a little bit about this. He had this whole conversation yesterday at the legislature. Good morning, Speaker. How are you? It's good to hear your voice.
Good morning. I appreciate what you were saying. Gone are the days, good old days of, having conversations face to face and putting a face, a name to the face and whatnot. But, those are the challenges that we have.
We do, certainly. I mean, you come from that. I mean, we're not too far apart in age. We both grew up in the same sort of technology. And even more to that, your father, having been a lawmaker for many, many years, a respected one at that, you kind of brought back that sort of feeling that, listen, we can do lawmaking and legislating without the technology if we're into it. We have to go a little further and work a little harder, but it can happen. Also recognizing, the technology is the way that the legislature goes about its daily business, right?
And again, that technology is a convenience. It is not the be-all, end-all. The be-all, end-all is reading what you've got in front of you, the pen, the paper, and the communications. But this age of technology and the need to have the information so that when it's convenient for me to read it, I can read it. No, the convenience is made when you take the time to be able to read it. When they started talking about, we have to do this and we have to do that, I've sat there and I'm like, don't talk to me. Don't start to talk to me about that. With the things that I needed to do at the same time period you were doing and more.
And so I think that we all sort of face that, and especially those of us who are baby boomers at this point understand what it's like to survive without the technology. But the legislature and this modern lawmaking body, the reliance on the technology is the way the legislature
Not
operates.
necessarily.
Isn't it?
Again, it's a convenience. If you look at the laws, you look at the standing rules. Okay, it doesn't say, anytime the YouTube feed goes down or anytime the internet is awry, that all work stops. It doesn't. Okay? Mm-hmm. The laws as written today and the standing rules as we have written it recognize that, look, you're going to have to go sometimes the old school way of being able to do it. I don't even say old school way. It's the way to do it. It's the way to do it. And I get it. That people appreciate the convenience. You're right. They want things real time. Sometimes real time means getting off your butt and walking down the hall and having a conversation and finding the report and reading it yourself.
You know what? I completely understand that, and that is a mindset that is very difficult sometimes, and it doesn't even matter what age group that you're in, but the reliance on certain ways to get information can change with an emergency. And I think what you're saying is what a lot of corporations that I have worked for, well, not a lot of them, but the couple that I have, that has been the policy of at least places where I've worked. If it doesn't come over your email or you didn't get something, be aware that you have to seek the information out. Just because it didn't come to you, in a split second doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You have to seek out the information. So I guess these guys are getting a lesson in sort of having to go a little bit further when you know that the power's out and there's no internet access, that if you're going into session, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're going into session, seek out the information before you get there?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
And
right.
there was a lot of time to be able to peruse, the reports, the bill that was there. Everybody got a copy of it. And, not to say that, I found the time to be able to read it, despite many other things that I needed to do over the same time period. And yes, there are questions that I prepped, for session. But to say and to use that, technology went on the blink, or we didn't have the ability because technology wasn't there, or we had to do other things, guys. That's what you were voted to do, and work through the adversity, and deal with the issues, and come up with the solutions together.
Okay, and so what? I guess it. I don't know if this is a sort of going to be a wake up call to. This is another layer of a responsibility that they have to be aware of. But this is a unique situation in that. Obviously, the issue isn't whether legislators in the 70s had the internet. They also didn't rely on cloud drives, and they didn't rely on digital amendments. But if we're using modern digital processes now, then wouldn't it be fair to say that lawmakers also need reliable access to that process? And if we want to deliberate, I guess, without the internet, then every revised document that appears, or amendment, or fiscal analysis should be distributed then, or are you to that concern? This is the budget process is not something that just happened over the last couple of weeks. This has happened over the last 3 or 4 months, sometime almost on a daily basis, with the ability to be able to meet with the committee, meet with the Office of Finance and Budget, go over the language, bring up some of the concerns, work through the concerns, so that when it gets into the budget, your questions were asked and answered. So it's not like, okay, we created this in a silo, and then all of a sudden, just on one day, we dropped a 194-page document on you. You had 3 to 4 months to be able to be a part of the process. Okay? To talk about convenience, I mean, again, technology is the ultimate in the convenience, because you have it at your fingertips. But at the same time, there was time, a lot of time, for you to be able to have the discussions, and contribute to be able towards the crafting of the bill. So to you to say, well, I've never seen this before, well, you never took the time to see that before. Actually, that's what it is. Would it have been, could the balance have been that these revised, amendments or anything revised to the bill could have been printed and distributed to them at the ready? Would that not have been also a compromise?
Well, I tell you what, in defense of the committee that put it together,
yeah,
they waited up until the 11th hour. Is there anything else, guys? Is there any other discussions that you want to have? All right?
Yeah.
I was because I was asked the same thing. I was in the room in some of those meetings when it was brought up. I brought up some of the concerns, and they were addressed. So again, Patti, it all comes down to that. We didn't have enough time, or it wasn't on the internet, and the internet was down because of the storm. I get it. I'll tell you a story of when I was a Homeland Security advisor. One time I brought all of the Homeland Security staff into the emergency operations rooms, and I said, all right, pagers, cell phones, and radios on top of the table. And they thought it was going to be an inspection. And I said, okay, they were all on top of the table. So I said, okay, now get up and go do your work. And they were starting to get up and collect their equipment. I said, no, leave it there. And they go, so how are we supposed to do that? I said, this is emergency management, okay? You have to learn to adapt and go back to the things that you learned earlier and how to be able to communicate as well as to gather information.
That's brutal,
So
bro.
it's brutal, but it's true.
That's brutal, bro. Okay.
Okay.
No. I see what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I tell you again, and admittedly, I get sometimes during the storm when cell service is down, and no access. The other thing too, hey, maybe ask your listeners, how many of us do own transistor radios?
Very true.
Okay?
Very true. Thank you for making that point. Thank you. That was just part of the conversation I had with Simon. He said I don't own one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't have transistors because we find it convenient that we have it on our smartphone. Well, sometimes when the smartphone is down, then what do we use?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I understand that this is not a difference, and it's not a generational gap thing. I think this is modern day legislating, and many houses of government are in all levels, and this county level to the state level to the federal level, rely on this technology. And we have enough typhoons on Guam that we should know how to do the old things of survival in anything that you do. I truly understand, and this might be a lesson for the youngins that are going, hey, I can only rely on this because I do it. In the interest, though, of the enormity and the severity of this $1.4 billion budget, is this a teachable moment that is necessary to the process right now as you're trying to get to a July 17th deadline, and we're talking about a big number of money to deliver?
Well, yeah, this is a teachable lesson, but it's also an achievable task. Because the other thing that we're going to rely on is, we have to get off at, we're going to have to get off at 6 p.m. or we're going to get off at 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. If the work needs to get done, we're going to continue to work through the night.
Okay, I'm sure that's going to fly. But
it's going to. But it wasn't. It was just a few years ago where it was not uncommon to be able to. All right, you want to eat dinner? Go into the conference room. We bought some meals. Take turns, eat dinner, but the work continues on the floor. So, and that's the work that we're tasked to do.
Okay.
We're going to do it.
Well, so nonetheless, you paused the proceedings because clearly in deference to those who still needed a little more time. So there's that. You feel like you're going to make up the lost time by everybody has to go to detention by working overnight.
Sure. And don't be surprised if we work through the weekend.
Oh my God! I feel like I didn't do my homework, and I'm at the academy in 1975.
Remember those days?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. And the thing was, and then what we really had to work is the library was closed.
Oh my God! And that was the end of everything. You could not get your term paper because the library was closed, and you don't own an encyclopedia.
Somebody misplaced or didn't put the M book for the encyclopedia, didn't put it back in its proper place.
You're killing me. It's like going back to my childhood. Well, I totally respect. I respect that we do have to work a little bit harder to make sure that we're prepared, even during the most extenuating circumstances. That even though I think that you're putting lawmakers to a task, your colleagues to a task, that just because it's not convenient doesn't mean it can't be done. And I respect that part of the process. I just want to know whether or not is there a balance? Lawmaking can't stop because we don't have power. I think that you're absolutely correct on that. But, what's the alternative? Seeking stuff out, working a little harder, putting your staff, to work a little bit harder. But still.
And, let's not blame the staff. Let's not blame the staff. The staff's not with you on the floor.
No, I mean that they'd have to work harder to support the effort, right? They're going to be staying behind too. Yeah. Well, I just got a little schooling on that one, sir. I appreciate the concept. Dear goodness, the concept of having to work a little bit more deeper and harder for this budget. Let's just quickly talk about the budget now, because I'm assuming that you're going to find some dissent in these long days and nights that you're going to be trying to beat the time clock of the budget. There's just a lot of arguing about keeping, what's happening with the budget being so high on the governor's end and that much being chopped. Where again is the balance?
The balance is the conversations that we'll have on the floor, and politics is the art of compromise. And in this thing, it's okay. Do you have the votes to be able to make that amendment, or to strike down that line, or to change that, the way the language that is represented in the bill. It's not just one person. You got to convince at least 7 others to be able to do this. And I tell you, it works both ways. It's not a partisan issue. It's who, and we saw that yesterday. Where you had the initial concern that were brought up by Democrats, but then they were supported by Republicans.
Yeah, it didn't. It kind of looked like there was equal time for both parties.
Absolutely.
They both had an issue. All right. Well, Speaker, when are you going back in then? And
they're waiting for me in the caucus room.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to be the one to stop up the budget of the government of Guam. I appreciate your time, sir. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Appreciate it, Patti.
It's my pleasure. At bottom of the hour, let's go ahead and take a break real quick and come on back on the other side. Be back.
Military officer, law enforcer, policymaker. Service has been the cornerstone of Congressman James Moylan's life. James Moylan swore to protect America as an officer in the United States Army. As a parole officer, James worked with families affected by substance abuse and domestic violence. He was elected to the 35th and 36th Guam legislatures, and now James Moylan represents Guam's needs in our nation's capital as a member of the United States Congress. Congressman Moylan has fought for more than $3 billion for Guam, including almost $1 billion in military construction and roads, and law enforcement and first responder vehicles and equipment. Moylan is also working vigorously on standing up a regional office right here on Guam, a game changer for our 25,000 plus veterans, 40 years and 4 oaths. Dedicated, resilient, trustworthy, and proven. That's James Moylan. Re-elect James Moylan for Congress. Moylan works.
I'm James Moylan, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by James Moylan for Congress. David L. Camacho, Treasurer.
The road to Adelup continues. This time, we sit down with Republican candidates. Vice Speaker Tony Atta and E.J. Calvo. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 5th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing is bringing the shine this July with our Liberation Detailing Specials, starting at $110. From Jigo to Malesu, we got you covered. Call 647-SLAM or WhatsApp 483-7522. Viva Guam!
Guam is building the future, and the right conversations start here. SAME Guam Post invites you to the 2026 Industry Forum happening July 28 through 30 at the Dusit Tani Resort. Join military, government, and industry leaders as they come together to discuss Guam's future in infrastructure, resilience, and regional growth. This premier event connects you to Guam's next generation of infrastructure. Registration is open. Visit GuamIndustryForum.com. The 2026 SAME Industry Forum, delivering Indo-Pacific readiness.
The road to Adelup is off and running. This time, we sit down with Republican candidate Speaker Frank Blass and Dr. Mary Okada. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 7th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
For Guam talks, debates, and stays informed. Wave 105, the talk of Guam.
8:39, right on the money. I was waiting for it to turn to 9 so I could say that. 8:39, right on the minute. I just feel like,
I
okay,
can get a larger clock and you'd still get it wrong.
Well,
I could get a larger clock for you, man. You'll
you're
still
right.
be like, it's 2:29.
You know why?
on
Because
a
you're
Tuesday.
doing it digitally. I need the analog clock. That's the only crap I can read now. I can't read this stuff. You know
dying.
what, Chris Barnett? I feel like after that interview that if I don't have water, I need to go to the well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta. It sounded like he wanted us to type out our amendments on the stone tablet.
Okay, so listen, I'm older than him, so I feel like I should have that attitude, but I'm sorry. I'm a little spoiled by getting information that's necessary for my show, like on my phone when I come in.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but it's your fault, Chris. You didn't go down the hallway and get the printed copies. I guess that's what he said.
Yeah, I think in just responding to this whole thing, they're on the wrong foot, so I don't want to get dragged down the rabbit hole on that. But, Speaker Blas, he's fully aware that over the last 10 years, our legislature has moved pretty much 100% of our processes towards digitalization and connectivity. So while he was in the session hall, banging the gavel and getting upset, the simple fact remains that because we've done all of our processes that way and migrated towards online, we're just not capable of doing it the old school way because, our rules also don't allow for it. Like, to submit an amendment, you've got to put it in the drive. And to put it in the drive, you've got to have internet. So, I get the argument that he was trying to make, but it was just a little bit of a red herring because it's actually irrelevant to the proceedings. And, the problem is this whole budget session got off on the wrong foot because they failed to do the most simple thing, which was comply with the open government law. So if you were watching the session last week, I kind of got up and raised that point of order, and Speaker Blas basically defaulted to the legislature as these Organic Act superpowers. So if you watch that and you kind of pay attention over the last this term of the 38 legislature, this Republican majority is not really big on the basics of transparency. I came in under Speaker Terlahi, and you start the ABCs with the letter A, and the letter A is you have to have that notice down so that our people know what's going on with the elected representatives. And every time we talked about having a session or having a public hearing, the first thing we did was count that 5-day public notice and factor that into all of the scheduling. So, for Speaker Blas and the Republican majority to just lose sight of that, simple, basic tenet of transparency, I think it's concerning. And what's more concerning is when senators bring it up, they get so angry. Like I thought the 37th has some tempers, but in this 38 legislature, we went into recess yesterday and just the yelling from Senator Duenas, Speaker Blas's eyes were about to pop out of his sockets. And that's not productive lawmaking. So to kind of frame it that, because we didn't review the budget because we were, plywooding the windows and securing everything. That's not true. We did review the budget. What we're saying is that, Speaker Blas said this wasn't created in a silo. It actually was created in a silo by Speaker Blas and the Republican majority. And so when you're talking about a voluminous bill of 200 pages, I, as an elected representative of the people of Guam, want to do a valid review of that bill. And that's what I think they're scared of, because this is not the, Chris Duenas' beautiful baby budget bill. This is a demon child. And if you look at the important areas that serve the people of Guam, we're being shortchanged again with these status quo budgets. And it all goes back to the business privilege tax rollback. And that's why I think it's important for the senators to have the opportunity to review the bill. That was the argument I was making, not that, I didn't have time to do this work that I was elected to do. It's really that this whole process requires the utmost transparency, and the only reason why the Republican majority has to rush is because Senator Duenas went out and told the media that he's going to pass this budget by July 17th, which is totally inconsiderate of the democratic process that we're supposed to follow to pass a budget. And in fact, our statutes say that we don't even have to have the budget passed until August 31st. So, I'm pretty sure a lot of this rushing is because they want to be out on the campaign trail the last couple of weeks before the primary. But this doesn't benefit the people of Guam. And I can do this all day. I don't have a problem with working until midnight. But the problem is that the people of Guam cannot pay attention to the process. And the last budget cycle, there were a lot of shenanigans going on under the cover of darkness at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and the people of Guam, given the connectivity issues with YouTube, weren't really able to follow along. And I just, I pray that although it's looking like it's going to be the same thing based on what Speaker Blas said, that we have a really transparent process with this budget, because, again, I don't think this is the budget that's going to deliver good results for the people of Guam. It might check all the boxes for the Republican majority and their big business friends, but at the end of the day, to deliver meaningful improvements for our island and our people, you simply cannot try and run another status quo budget. Status quo, has got to go. It's more like status no, and that's what we're seeing with this budget. And I think that's why we're seeing the tempers that we did yesterday, is because they have this down. Apparently, they're following some kind of rushed schedule to get us out of there on July 17th. That's not prudent. I said on the floor yesterday, haste makes waste, and I think that the people of Guam need to be aware of this session and everything that's going on with this. Budget.
So what's on page 1000, section 5000? I mean, what's the gory detail that you think is being hidden from plain sight?
Well, let me just give you an example. So with the Guam Police Department, right? They got a pretty much a status quo budget, but then Chairman Duenas takes $500,000 out of GPD's budget to fund his Maulik Pet project, which. I supported it at the time because he was my vice chair, but logistically, I think that there's a lot of issues with it. He didn't try and fund that in the last fiscal year, so that's kind of an example. There's a lot of things that they're doing with just some of their pork barrel things. But I think for me, Patti, the biggest problem with the budget is the 0.5% rollback that's going to be implemented should this pass. And so I have an amendment that I'm going to try and proffer. I know Senator Parkinson is going to support it, but I want to roll back the 0.5% BPT, and I want to use that money for Typhoon Bobby, Sinlaku, and future storm preparations in the form of $1,000 household grants. And so I'm hoping to get the support of my colleagues. I'm not anticipating that the Republican majority will like it very much, but, I think at the end of the day, it's a compromise, because I argued vehemently against the 1% rollback. We did the 0.5%. It's very clear that it didn't lead to lower costs or higher wages for anybody. Sure, some of the businesses were able to do improvements, but I think the argument that I was making the whole time is that Governor Liu, Lieutenant Governor Josh have given the small businesses a reduced rate of 3%. So they're kind of taken care of, and this BPT rollback really is to take care of the big businesses that, frankly, in my opinion, aren't as important as the struggles that the people of Guam are going through right now. And so, to me, again, that's a compromise. We can keep the 0.5% that we rolled back last fiscal year, but let's take this 0.5%, put a pause on it and redirect these funds and put them in the pockets of our families. I sit right next to the Republican Party chair, Senator Sean Gumatauta, and when he talks about this BPT rollback, he paints this narrative that the BPT rollback to the tune of $40 million last fiscal year somehow put money in the pockets of our families. And I don't see that, Patti, when I go around and talk to people, when I'm sitting in the dark, when the power's out, when we're all struggling to make ends meet paycheck to paycheck. I don't see that BPT rollback in the pockets of the families. That's why I'm going to challenge my colleagues to really put their money where their mouth is, and let's take this 0.5%, this $42 million, and let's really put it in the pockets of our families in the form of, typhoon relief and typhoon preparedness grants for the households on Guam.
I gotta say, Chris, that's a great idea, and I have to say I don't know if there's any data or anything that shows it, but on its face and really with the naked eye, I'm not seeing these employees getting richer. I'm not seeing them getting the benefits that were probably, and I wouldn't know that for sure. Like, again, I don't know what the research is saying if it's better for the working person in some of these businesses that they're actually getting the benefits of the rollback, or that stores are actually sprucing up because that's what they said that money was going to go to. I am getting one big businessman who says, I totally agree. Dave Alcorn says he totally agrees with what you're saying. So, whether or not that passes, the Republican vetting, I don't know how much, and I'd assume that the governor is standing behind it because you guys are on the same page on this.
haven't spoke to the governor on it, and my style, Patty, is I'm going to put the idea out there. I would love to hear the Republicans debate this amendment, and I'd love to hear them say that no, they don't think the families of Guam deserve any help. I mean, it's very clear from Super Typhoon Sinlaku to Super Typhoon Bobby to the potential future storms that everyone's saying we're going to get hit by. It's clear they need the help more than the businesses. The businesses got the help, and again, the Republicans, they campaigned on that promise, and I think it's now time for compromise. If you want to talk about where this BBT rollback went, go talk to the workers. Go talk to the people working the stores, the people in the restaurants. They're not feeling the trickle down that the Republicans promised. I mean, they were all day on this. This is going to create favorable economic conditions for the workers, and it absolutely didn't, and that's why I really argued it. But I'm also willing to compromise. A lot of the Republicans, I think, felt like some of us Democrats were going to go into this and we're going to try and negate the 0.5% that rolled back in the last fiscal year. But again, I want to approach them with that compromise that we can keep the 0.5%. Let's pause this 0.5% now, redirect it towards helping our families, and then down the road, Patty, this type of funding, it's transformative. We need to start being visionary and less narrow-minded and self-defeating in our thought process about how we tax businesses and how we use revenues or excess revenues. This $42 million could go towards transformative things like affordable housing, universal college and training for our young people. And that's where I think these types of monies should go. I'm a proud Chamorro son of Guam, and forgive me if I think that the cost of doing business here should reflect how much we value our community. If you look at everywhere across the states, it's you'll be very hard-pressed to find a business privilege tax rate as low as the one we had before we rolled it back by 0.5%. And, I think that's very telling. We can't build a future Guam that we want for our kids. We talk about people leaving. We have to build a Guam where they want to stay. But guess what? That requires investment. We can't do that on the status quo budget. We can't do that if we continue to overlook the needs of our people by kissing up to the big businesses, and that's why I want to do this amendment. And that's kind of like the leadership that I think the people of Guam deserve in the legislature. So let me just pivot here. I think we need to go back to a Democrat majority. The Republican majority here in the 38 Guam legislature, just look at the conditions. We don't see improvements in the schools. We don't see improvements in the hospital. We don't see improvements for our working families. And under Democratic leadership, I would love to get the Committee on Education back. I'd love to move with some of these young, energetic Democrats who are running for senator, like Callum Perez. I think is a great candidate. We have the veterans like Senator Clint Rigel, Senator Talina Nelson, Senator Amanda Shelton. Then you've got exciting older candidates like Angel Sablon, and so I'm really hoping that we can flip the majority. But I think it's gonna go back to the messaging. We've got to just really be on point about supporting our working families and kind of getting away from a lot of the hyper-partisan stuff that's divided the Democrat Party, which, I'm anticipating after these elections wash out. It's a great opportunity for the Democrat Party to reset and to really allow some of the more dissident voices, like myself, to have a seat at the table because, as we look down the road, it's very thin in the party ranks. So I want to support a lot of these candidates who are trying to get in. I think we flip the majority and we give the people's house back to the people of Guam.
I'm going to have to start charging you for that Democrat. I've never spoken with you, so I'm allowing time for you to speak because we don't get to talk to each other on the air. But I think that there's a lot that you're saying that I completely agree with, and I think a lot of people who are in the working class agree with. So I'm going to just say you better get to chiseling that amendment, sir, because time's a wasting. You got a lot of work to do.
I got my Ryobi chiseler ready to go.
Sharpen your tools.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. And anytime you want me to call in, I'd be more than happy to call in and speak to your audience. I hope everyone is doing as well as we could be. I'm in the No Power, No Generator Club. But like Di said, we're just so grateful to have water. And really just what I love about these times after the typhoon is when you see everybody come together from all the different law enforcement directing traffic to the GPA crews out in the streets. And then the love that the people of Guam have when you see these people, you give that honk. You see these smiles, and as the governor said, we're inching back to normalcy. So I know you're up against the top of the hour, but I'm going to send a letter to the mayors today. I want them to really reconsider their cancellation of the Liberation memorials, and also I'm going to send a letter to Adelup to ask them to reconsider the cancellation of the Liberation parade. You know, as the governor herself said just yesterday, recovery is moving fast, and if we're getting back to normal, a big part of normal here on this island with our culture is paying respect to our signers, and we do that at the different individual liberation memorials. I get it, the logistical challenges, but, you know, our signers enjoy the Japanese occupation of Guam, and, you know, if we were hit by a super typhoon and we're already recovering quickly, I think that we can make the time to honor them. You know, this is the time of year they shine. This is the time of year the people of Guam come together. Many of us don't even come together for Christmas, but this season of reflection, remembrance, and respect, I think it deserves to survive the passage of Super Typhoon Bobby. And so I just wanted to put that one last little
I appreciate
thing in there,
that.
you know,
I appreciate that.
encourage the mayors to reconsider.
No, I think a lot of people feel the same way. It feels like something's really missing when you don't have that. It is part of our tradition. And nothing would say better that we are in recovery than having that parade go on. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And, you know, they could do a little video how they say the Liberation Day parade and put it on their campaign website, and, you know, everybody would be happy.
Yeah, I appreciate Chris. Always good to talk to you, and it was great to run into you. I never even run into you. I ran into you that one day with my grandson. It was really he'd never met a senator before, so that was kind of a cool. It was kind of a cool. He's like he's a senator. I never met one. I'm like, well, live on Guam, boy.
There you go. You meet them all the time.
Yeah, I appreciate this. Have a good day. Good luck with the
You too,
band.
Patti.
All right, thanks so much. That's Chris.
You're responsive.
All right, you're absolutely welcome. 8:56. That's Chris Barnett. That is actually the first time that I've really spoken to him on the air. We don't get to engage often.
Oh, right on.
Sometimes I've actually disagreed a lot with things that he has done, maybe not necessarily said, but you know, he says words like visionary, and it kind of stimulates my brain cells when you start talking about lawmaking and having visionary talents. Then and you look at some of these newcomers that he's talking about, where these visions are being on display, but people don't know what they're like yet, right? Because they're still not tried and true. What we do sometimes is become that kind of lazy voter where we want to go, but we're not really invested in people that we're really talking about getting into place. You feel the need to fill out the oval, but you don't really know who it is you're filling out the oval for. So you go for the name recognition. And that is just as dangerous as going for the recognition than you are going for the little lone person who's out there that's just looking for the opportunity to just blossom. And we've seen that in newcomers, and we've got a lot of them. And, you know, he's making a case for the Democrat slate, as they do. I allowed him to do that again because we don't talk often, and it's sometimes great to hear from people that you don't hear from all the time. So I appreciate that. We're going to move along to the next thing, which is really nothing. Not nothing. I'm done.
Oh, huh?
I don't know. Oh. I'm done. I think we managed to placate some people and piss off others. So our job here is finished. No, I'm kidding. We've got a whole other hour on deck for you, and we're going to make full use of it coming up. Maureen Maritita is actually on vacation. She's in London.
Yes, she is.
She went to London to secure, you know, her bloodline.
Right.
Make sure that, you know, things
sure
in London are
intact.
still on point.
Good job.
Leaving us over here to do what we will on a day that she's normally on the air, and that we will certainly do coming up. But we got to get to your AP News. That's ahead here. The last look at it before we cut out for the week. It is a short week, by the way. I mean, it feels like we weren't here Monday for obvious reasons.
Right.
We did show up on Tuesday.
Right on.
But that was like that was like a hybrid show. We kind of bled into other people's time clocks, but we were able to do that. And unfortunately, we couldn't be here yesterday because that was just, you know, we also are vulnerable to the effects of Bobby, and all throughout the facilities, and you can see, people are having a harder time, trying to survive with water and no power and that sort of thing, and so everybody's doing it. We got the note late on Wednesday that there was a flyer that went out that Ross is going to be closed for a couple of days, and all of GPO and Micronesia Mall. We reached out to Monty Mesa, like, what are you talking about? He's like, their electrical lines that were leading to the building through their generator weren't working, and they had to be replaced. So that means that they had to close down the mall. This is GPO. But the food court was able to run on its own generator power, but not the entire complex. So they closed they were supposed to close. And he said if they get the power back on, then I guess that would be kind of void. I'm assuming that they were open when the power, or they just probably took advantage of the power to be able to clean up. But they're supposed to be opened again today. That's Ross and those guys. So I was like, close any day you want to. Just don't close on Tuesday. Do you know that they bus senior citizens?
No.
From the Senior Citizen Center?
There's senior citizen buses?
I mean, they take them. Yeah, like it's a field trip for the senior citizens.
Okay.
Because Tuesday, you wouldn't know this because you're a youngin'.
No, but I mean, there's buses for elders, is what you're saying?
Well, I mean, like the community centers will make, it's like a field trip. I don't know if they actually use government buses to do that, but transportation, whatever, they all go.
From the centers to GPO is what you're saying?
To Ross for Senior Citizens Day.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool.
As I said, do it any day, just don't do it on Tuesday. There was nothing.
That's pretty cool.
There's no gain from pissing off an old person. Right on. There really is no gain there. You got to give them whatever they want.
I like that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat.
You'll get there because you're not quite there, but
That's right. You ain't gonna find me busing, Patty. I'll do a lot of things, but you ain't putting me on no bus. Patty.
No, I meant
had this conversation. My OCD, Patty, it's just skyrocketed right now. I can't do it.
I meant that you don't know what Senior Citizens Day is because you're not old enough.
No, Patty, we volunteer at the center.
You don't get the discount at Ross Nye.
Oh, the discounts, the perks.
That's why they go there.
The perks.
Yeah, that's why they go there, because they have Senior Citizen Discount Day.
Okay.
So I was saying close Ross any other day, but don't close it on a Tuesday.
Don't close it on a Tuesday.
Because the senior citizens like going shopping there on Tuesdays.
Well, they have at the Agania Shopping Center also. They have it at SM Island at the Agania Shopping Center. They have their little discount something day. It's
on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays.
See, there's options. There's options.
Oh, yeah.
Bus them that way.
Yeah.
Like, bus them that way.
Absolutely. There are.
Yeah,
they're
go that way.
All of Agania Shopping Center does that.
Right?
They do the Senior Citizen Tuesday.
Oh, so it's all of the Agania Shopping Center.
Yeah.
But GPO, it's only for Ross.
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Go to the Agania Shopping Center. Everything's on sale for you guys. Go to the Agania Shopping Center.
Thanks, Dice.
I got you.
Okay, 9 o'clock in the morning now. KGUM FM in Dedido, Guam.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. U.S. military forces carried out new strikes on Iran today, and Tehran responded, targeting Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. Karen Shamas has more.
Shortly before the U.S. strikes, President Trump said recent Iranian attacks on ships in the Strait of Hormuz signaled the end of the ceasefire.
I say we hit them 20-1. Every time they hit us, we're going to hit them 20.
In Iran, the 2 days of American airstrikes have killed at least 14 people and wounded scores more, according to Iranian authorities. Iran's retaliatory attacks in the Gulf appeared bigger all around, with sirens sounding in Kuwait and at least 3 times in Bahrain, home to the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters. There was no immediate word of damage in the 3 Gulf Arab countries. I'm Karen Shamas.
A former Olympic canoe racer has pleaded not guilty to deliberately damaging the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool.
The administration says David Hearn reached into the pool and violently ripped up sealant installed as part of the president's troubled multi-million-dollar renovation project. Hearn's backers were outside the D.C. courthouse as the plea was entered.
It is not a crime
to touch the reflecting pool, to touch water in the United States of America.
Defense lawyer Norm Eisen stood with Hearn after the plea, saying every American should be troubled by a politically charged prosecution. While the president has said vandals damaged the pool, Hearn has said he reached in to examine the peeled sealant and let go of a chunk when a park worker told him to. He's free while awaiting trial. Sagar Magani, Washington.
In Congo, the death toll from the latest Ebola outbreak has reached 600, and the government now says new suspected cases are being reported in previously unaffected parts of the country. This is AP News. Seth Sutel has today's AP Markets report.
Stocks rose and oil prices fell as calm returned to financial markets a day after fighting flared up again between the U.S. and Iran. The S&P 500 rose 0.8% Thursday. The index more than recovered its loss from the day before. The Dow added 139 points, that's about 0.3%. The Nasdaq Composite rose 1.3%. Oil prices gave back much of their gain from the day before. The price of a barrel of Brent crude eased by 2.2%. Treasury yields fell in the bond market. The yield on the 10-year Treasury slipped to 4.54%. Seth Sutel, New York.
U.S. gasoline prices took a jump up 5 cents from yesterday. AAA puts the national average for regular grade just below $3.85 per gallon. There's more news at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
Off at Guam, over the last 2 years, we have built strong relationships, opened new doors, and created real opportunities for our island. Those partnerships continue to grow stronger, and together, we are making meaningful progress for Guam. Early voting for 2026 primary elections begins July 9th and runs through July 25th at the Westin Resort. Tuesdays through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now is not the time to lose momentum. The foundation has been laid, the relationships have been built, and opportunities before Guam have never been greater. Your vote will help ensure we continue moving forward together. I humbly ask for your support and your vote. Let's keep building a stronger future for Guam.
I'm James Moylan, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by James Moylan for Congress. David L. Camacho, Treasurer.
The road to Adelup is off and running. This time, we sit down with Republican candidate Speaker Frank Blass and Dr. Mario Cotto. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 7th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
The road to Adelup is here, and this time we spoke with Democrat candidates, Senator Toriz Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
Hafaday, Guam. The Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association invites you to the Fair Trade Show, Guam's premier hospitality and food service event. Join us August 19th and 20th at the Hyatt Regency Guam from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Experience hands-on training sessions and exciting culinary competitions featuring professionals, apprentices, and pastry talent. Discover new products, connect with suppliers, and celebrate Guam's hospitality industry. Don't miss Fair 2026. Visit GHRA.org for details.
The road to Adelup is set. This time, we sit down with Democrat candidates Senator Joe Augustine and former Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 8th on the Wave 105 YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station. The road to Adelup is set. This time, we sit down with Democrat candidates Senator Joe Augustine and former Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 8th on the Wave 105 YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
Wave 105, keeping Guam informed, inspired, and in the conversation. Glimpses Media.
Grab a bottle of ketchup and pass the salt. We're celebrating a legendary crispy side dish with a highly debated global history. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for July 10th.
National French Fry Day is usually associated with greasy paper bags and a quick meal on the go. But one of our favorite regional variations actually got its start in the world of high society. Most people assume the seasoned curly fry was engineered by corporate executives in the 1980s. In reality, the very first known recipe for spiralized, deep-fried potatoes was published all the way back in 1824. It appeared in a historic cookbook written by Mary Randolph, an elite Southern author who happened to be related to Thomas Jefferson. She instructed cooks to carefully slice whole potatoes into continuous unbroken ribbons, much like peeling a lemon, before frying them in hot lard. It turns out that the twisted, curly fries we eat out of a cardboard container today originally started out as an elegant garnish for upscale 19th century dinner parties.
It seems that Thomas Jefferson had some very cool relatives that came up with great things.
What I'm thinking here, because Thomas Jefferson introduced us to ice cream in the United States, right? So I'm wondering if Mary and Thomas got together and dunked the French fries in
the ice cream, probably because it's really good that way.
I agree.
We're also celebrating National Pina Colada Day and National Clarahue Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
If you're looking for world-class website hosting at a fair price, Pair Networks is your best choice. Founded in the early days of the web and still going strong today, Pair Networks now hosts over 150,000 websites for its demanding customers worldwide. Setting the standards for excellence, Pair Networks has a technical and support staff that's second to none. A highly stable company with top-of-the-line technology, Pair Networks offers total reliability and flexibility for your website, and even a money-back guarantee. Whether you're a professional web designer or a beginner just getting your site online, Pair Networks has a web hosting plan that's right for you. Make the move today. Log on and learn more at pair.com. That's PAIR.com. Pair Networks. World-class web hosting at a fair price. Visit us at pair.com. Pair Networks.
From breaking news to bright ideas, Wave 105 is where Guam speaks.
105.1 The Wave is the talk of Guam. Keep the day moving right here on Mornings with Patti.
I'm the spark in the room when the bass go boom. energy, that's my lane. Drip so clean, let it talk my name. Got a groove so stiff.
I like this song, but I don't know who it is. It's like one of those things where it's just like a great intro.
This is the Raul playlist. I swear it's the Raul playlist.
Raul
he
is
just keeps dumping more.
Hey,
I'm
man,
like,
I'm here
just
for it.
clicking. I'm like, dude, as long as it's clean, I'm clicking on it. Okay, if it's clean, I'm clicking.
Okay,
I'm
so
clicking on it.
Typhoon menu, breakfast menu, Friday version.
Okay.
And I ate everything. I ate half of everything.
I had chilaquiles yesterday from Ron's Diner. They're feeding emergency responders, by the way.
Oh, are they?
They've been cooking.
Remember
since
they were
3
doing the
a.m.
$10 one?
They're still doing it.
I've been craving chilaquiles. Thanks for saying that. Maybe
And
I'll
corn
make
soup.
some.
I got some corn soup, and you know what? It tastes like the ones like our grandparents used to make. It's really, really
That's
good.
Antigu. That's an Antigu
They
style
did,
right there.
You know, the kind where the black pepper and the salt and everything, it's like fresh. It doesn't taste like dirt. It's that.
Or
kind.
it doesn't taste like chicken broth. I mean, chicken bouillon.
I love Ron's Diner. You know, it's a nice little comfy spot. You know what? If you guys aren't doing anything, support Ron's Diner. Okay, Ron's Diner. I got to be.
You know, they had a thing the other day where, remember I was telling you they had a flyer out there. They had like chili and another pot roast, and it was like $10 and grab and go. That was like it's been a long time since I went to a party where they catered it and it was pretty
locally
good.
operated.
It's raw and nice.
It's raw. It's locally owned and locally operated, and I like that kind.
No, I'm just saying that the breakfast menu, if you'd like to hear it.
Let's hear
I
it.
ate half of everything because I'm a sharer.
Okay, go for it.
And I brought it, and now you're saying you don't want it. So
No,
I'm not
I
going
did
to
earlier because I was scared that I was going to use the restroom. So there's that. Sorry, guys. I'm just airing out all my business.
Guess
I'm
so.
sorry. I didn't want to eat because I didn't want to potty. You know,
Well,
I'm
you
like
could have said,
I'm
I
like
don't
a
want-
toddler. Be
you
like, I
could have
can't
said-
eat it because then I'm gonna have to potty.
Oh my God. You could have said, I don't want to eat because I'm so full from last night. But no, you went all the way to the excrement
I know.
adventure. Thanks.
Sorry.
Well,
y'all.
I ate half of my egg salad.
Yeah. Okay.
Egg salad sandwich half. It's really this.
You know, I've
the,
never
they
been
use
an
the
egg sandwich person, man.
Why not?
I've never.
Egg salad. It's different than egg sandwich.
No, and the same.
This one. Look how full this one
Look at
is.
this. And Auntie
It's
Bobby
so
does
much.
the same. I love you, Auntie Bobby. And Auntie Bobby does this all the time. But
She makes you egg salad.
I grew up to the just be grateful. So I never say anything, but let it be known, Dice is not an egg person. Okay, because I'm.
Well, you don't like egg salad, but you eat eggs, right? Like scrambled eggs.
Yes.
Like
I
when
can-
when we have
I
breakfast
can
and
do
I'll
that.
bring you
Yes,
breakfast. Just scrambled eggs is not a bad thing. You
can
just
do that.
egg salad is a little too adventurous for you.
Because there's mayonnaise, and I don't like mayonnaise. Remember? See, I'm
Yeah,
a
yeah,
mayo
yeah.
person. Yeah. So, but no,
I'll give this to Ed.
They packed it in. Everyone, wherever she got, Patty, where'd you get that at? You guys have to go and get it because they filled it to the rim. Like it
I keep
broke the bread.
forgetting the name of the store.
It broke the bread. That's how much.
No, it is.
filling
It's like
they
one of
have in
those
there.
big white Pullman type breads, and it's really soft. It could be Joanne's for all I know.
Yeah, see?
And it's got egg salad in it, but
And I like Joanne's. Joanne's.
that's good. I can't eat a whole. It's a lot. And I get full fast. So there's that. And then I found these Keebler toast and peanut butter sandwich crackers made with real peanut butter, no high fructose corn syrup.
Okay.
These are snacks for toddlers.
Yeah, that's okay.
And
That's all right.
I bought a bunch of snacks for Riley for his lunch pail because to me he's still 7. Leave me alone. He's 17, but I just like these little things that he could put in the little lunch sack that he takes to work. And I put fruit roll-ups, and he comes home every day, and I look inside the bag, and fruit roll-ups are still there. And so are the peanut butter toasted sandwich crackers still there. His tastes have graduated.
Nice.
To like cucumbers and raw vegetables. And so I when he doesn't eat them, I jack them. And I put them in my purse because they, in a bind, when we've had plenty of binds up here, we're like, no food. But I saved half for you.
Okay. All right.
I gave one to you the other day. Did you eat
half
it?
of a fruit roll up?
No. Toast and peanut butter. I didn't even bring fruit. I didn't bring the fruit roll.
Peanut butter. Okay.
I'm a little old for the fruit roll up action. You know what I mean? But if I had one, I'd be rolling it around my finger and eating it like that. If I'm going to go for it, I'm going to wrap it around my finger like they did it back in the day. But the only reason I bought a fruit roll up is because TikTok has this thing that I thought that Riley would enjoy. Little did I know that he also has graduated from the popsicle sort of with the fruit roll up wrapped around it. It's the popsicle pops, right? The skinny one, not the twin type.
Okay.
And not the rocket pop. It's just the regular popsicle, right? And you take the fruit roll up and you wrap it around the popsicle. And then you put it in the freezer. And you freeze it for an hour.
Okay.
And then when you take it out,
Uh-huh.
it's a crunchy coated layer of fruit roll-up that's been frozen over a popsicle. And the texture sounds, it sounds really good in the
That sounds
texture.
really good, actually.
Yeah. So
That
I
sounds
went to
really
the
good.
store and I bought popsicles because I had already gotten the fruit roll-ups and I brought them home.
Okay.
And I was assembling them so the kids could see that I was nobody was interested. They're like, yeah, cool. Okay, what's the sugar content? I'm like, stop it. Am I the only one who's 4 here? And so I put them in the freezer, took them out the next day, and I put it on the table, and everybody tried it, and they were like, not impressed. Not impressed. No. So I ended up throwing away the popsicles because they were basically liquid when I was emptying my freezer yesterday, which I am doing as thousands of other people are doing.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're emptying hundreds of dollars of perfectly rotting food into a trash can, which is so hard to do, is to throw food away. It's so hard. And I said this in Sinlaku. Had I known that I was going to be dealing with a typhoon that was going to take out my refrigerator for 7 days, I would have started doling out that food or cooking it. And my friends have done that. They've got chicken and things, and they started cooking, making foods and putting them in containers, but they still had to go in the freezer. So one way or the other, unless you consumed it in the first couple of days of the typhoon before it thawed out, then you were having to throw away even the prepared stuff. But it's easier to give away cooked food than it is to give away raw frozen food, right? I know
I'm
that's
like, wait, what?
only in a typhoon could you say something like that because everybody would go, yeah, duh.
Duh.
It is easier to eat raw cooked food than it is to get, but in a typhoon situation, you know, you
I
have to,
crushed some Ben and Jerry's. Is that where it is?
I'm down.
Dog, I'll
I'm
go
just
through
hungry.
that bad boy.
Yeah, like every night after dinner, I'm telling the kids I'm hungry, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, I'm cooking. I never eat my own food. I've tasted it, so I end up not wanting to sit down and enjoy it because I've enjoyed it while I was cooking, and so I'm not hungry. And then at everybody's dinner, they're like, "Oh, that was great, thanks." So I made Kahlua pig and cabbage last night for dinner. I had 2 bites of it, and I'm like, because I made it.
Oh, okay.
And they were eating it up like it was like their last meal, and it actually kind of was because that was the last of anything that I had in my refrigerator. I have a pound of bacon and some frozen fruit for smoothies. That's pretty much all I have in my freezer. Verna, are we going on base and shopping yet, or is it still closed up there?
My husband was able to get a haircut after work yesterday, so apparently they are open.
Oh, good. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, but I can't go anywhere because I got this fur baby right next to me that
girl.
I cannot leave her at home by herself.
Well, there's crates for that.
I know, and I left. She's got her, what is it called? Her big old kennel.
Yeah,
she's got room in the house and everything. But the guilt, man, and everything. It's just I was gone for 2 hours yesterday, and I was just like rushing home and everything. I had to go to church, gas my car. Buy a few
do you ever stop to think that she's so happy when you're not there? Like, oh my God, I wish she'd just give me a minute so I could just lick my fur and just be a dog.
Oh, yeah, so I'll figure out. I might try to venture
Okay,
out.
Help me out here. We're talking about a dog, not that it isn't equally as important.
It's not a human.
It's not
my
a
fur
human.
baby, the girl I didn't give birth to.
Okay,
I don't have any girls.
No. I'm just saying that I can understand why you can't leave a toddler at home, but why can't you leave your dog? Is it because you feel bad that the dog's alone, or what's going on?
Because there's no power. You know what I mean? And then we didn't have water all day yesterday.
Oh, I see. So you don't. Okay.
That's why, and everything. I mean, I can leave some windows open. I can turn on the radio for something, for her to, some kind of, I don't know, whatever.
Entertainment.
But she's just chilling with me right now as I'm talking to you, and she's cool about it. And we got the Milwaukee fan facing her, not really me.
Yeah.
Because she's got fur and she's like panting like crazy.
Oh yeah.
And everything. Yeah.
You don't have
And we have that vacuum where thank God the cordless one, but you can charge it.
Yeah.
So I was able to vacuum the house this morning, and OMG, all the hair that was in there.
I bet. That's the. Hey, fur dog. These heavy fur dogs. Tia has a dog that's part husky, and I tell you that thing is having a hard time. In Vegas, they have to let the dog out just for a certain amount of time, just enough to relieve themselves, drink a bunch of water, and then come right back in because
that's what I'm doing.
Crazy.
That's what I'm doing with her and everything.
It's
and
so hot.
Then it actually rained, and where it flooded, and it kind of like was. But there's no water coming out of the tap and everything. So I feel diced on what she said because I was holding it as much as I could, and then we had water last night, and it was the best cold shower I ever had, in forever.
You have water, yay!
Yes, we got water last night. I
how
was just praising God, praising GWA.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I flush, I'm thanking God. Every time I brush my teeth, I'm thanking God.
Yeah.
I'm GWA.
Yeah.
God and GWA.
No, there's no question. It is really a whole nother attitude when the water comes through. We had water the entire time, and then we got the power on the other day. Early yesterday morning at 3:30 a.m. we got power. And so I spent the entire day, because after something like that happens, your house is just dirty. The doors have been open, the windows are open. It's just filthy. And so I spent yesterday just scrubbing and cleaning, and I was so grateful. The water... I had water, but it was a trickle compared to having full force water just the day before. So I had power and I had a little bit of water, and I just felt rich. I just, you know what I mean?
We're still grateful. We're still grateful.
I meant like not rich as in monetarily. I just felt rich in life. And I was like, it's just these things that are so, they're just minor to most people, but it's a human right to have these things and to get it.
And I feel bad for those who don't have it either, especially the water. Man, you know what I mean? It's just, so I'm just taking it in and trying not to think about school, even though it's creeping in my head and everything. And, and
Dice and I were just talking about that. Is it 30? How many days? 30 days? 30 days?
31, now? I believe. There was a countdown to 32 because we officially begin August 10. But, we teachers have to go in a few days before to set up and everything. So there's all that. But I'll feel it eventually. Right now I'm not really feeling it and everything because I like to leave and do stuff, just get out, get some aircon and maybe get some of my shopping therapy on, but not happening until probably tomorrow when Albert is home from work. I'm going to be gone for at least 3 to 4 hours, and he better not even give me any kind of attitude about it because one is going to be also going to the post office to send out a package or two that, that I need to send out, and then just thinking of family members and whatnot. My sister-in-law, his only sister, who lives in New Mexico, she just lost her father-in-law, so I want to send out the old school way of a condolence card and everything, and just send it out there and everything because, they're feeling a lot of hurt right now and everything, and so, just thinking of that and everything. And I don't know if he thought about it, but I sure did because, I'm the girl in the house. I'm the woman with thinking of all these things. He's thinking of everything else, and I'm like, what, we're going to send out a card. Yes, we can send money via the internet, via PayPal or whatever, our bank accounts, but there's just something about getting a card in the mail.
You're right.
That just helps. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's my plan.
Reading the words. Absolutely. You're right.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Well, you're a good person, Verna. And so when good things happen to good people, it's the way that life is supposed to roll. Because you do so much for so many people, you think so quickly about others before you, and that's why you're a teacher. You put people before you, and your loved ones are the most center part of your life, and your fur babies. So everything that's good that happens to you, I celebrate because you're a good person. So enjoy your water. I hope your power goes on. I hope you shop yourself to death before, not to death, but you know what I mean. And I hope that the line at the post office is short for you.
Oh, thank you for that. That's so sweet. And thank you,
pleasure.
You too. You're like, what is it, The Wave and all of you all. Thank you. And Raul's playlist, I'm loving it. I'm YouTubing it here and there. And by the way, I want to mention, I went on a Fleetwood Mac rabbit hole yesterday.
Oh, nice. Hey, that's not a bad place to go.
It was awesome. Oh, I even went through my CDs and found an actual, CD with my name, Verna M. Charglove, on it. I'm like, what?
Wow. Okay. That's another old. Oh, no, I found a whole bunch of those, like CDs that we were burning back in the 90s. Oh, my gosh. I found even in the 2000s. What am I talking about? The 90s, the 2000s. We're cleaning out. We're doing a renovation, so we've got boxes of old things that we're putting into storage that memories that we just need to store someplace else. And we came across one of Tia's boxes because Tina was a typical teenager, and she had like these CDs that had her name on it, and all of the song selections were dying.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, burning CDs was a thing. Did you ever burn a CD, Dice, back in the day?
No. Well, for me, I didn't. Mine was a cassette tape. Let's recording and
totally.
The CD, I never got into that.
Yeah, how about you, Dice?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
for
burning
sure.
CDs was
For
a
sure.
thing. That was like your ultimate playlist, right?
We didn't text and drive. We had the CD Bible.
A CD Bible. Oh my
The CD Bible and then the CD changer in the car.
I found several of those. I'll tell you what else I found, and I'd love to be able to. I don't know where I would put it, but right now it's in storage because I don't have the heart. The kids are looking at me and like, what are you doing? But Bob Gaith left me, and he did to Jefferson Cronin, volumes of CDs that were old Christmas songs, Christmas music, and he gave it to me before he retired from the station. That was during Maywar. And so unceremoniously, this guy was able to retire. And he gave me a bunch of his personal CDs, and I've just not had the heart because he was just such a great producer and such a wonderful man, and I just don't have the heart to just unceremoniously throw them away. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know who has an archive of things like this, but I'd be certainly happy to give it up. I just don't want to throw it away. And I know that maybe there are people who still have a CD player out there that would love listening to old time music.
I understand. And you know what? And I'm also going through some books, and I've got my to be read pile, so I'm kind of in between. And what's so cool also, Patty, I'm texting and talking to my librarian from elementary school, Patty. Guam was her home. She relocated to Virginia, and we've been back and forth, and I just love it. And she and I are just constantly talking about, books and everything and whatnot. She's asking me about her grandchildren and what she can do to kind of get them into the love of reading the way I went through it since elementary school. I mean, man, the typhoon just kind of makes everybody get together and old friends and whatnot. So I'm so thankful for that, and actually reading a book instead of reading it on your phone or on your Kindle.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. Reading a book is one of those things that avid book readers still enjoy the smell of the pages. So that's pretty cool. That's very cool. Well, I appreciate this, Vern. I hope you have a wonderful day, as I said, you absolutely deserve.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure, lady. Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bottom of the hour now. It's 9:30. Let's take a break. Yes? Are we good? Okay.
Grab a bottle of ketchup and pass the salt. We're celebrating a legendary crispy side dish with a highly debated global history. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for July 10th.
National French Fry Day is usually associated with greasy paper bags and a quick meal on the go. But one of our favorite regional variations actually got its start in the world of high society. Most people assume the seasoned curly fry was engineered by corporate executives in the 1980s. In reality, the very first known recipe for spiralized, deep-fried potatoes was published all the way back in 1824. It appeared in a historic cookbook written by Mary Randolph, an elite Southern author who happened to be related to Thomas Jefferson. She instructed cooks to carefully slice whole potatoes into continuous unbroken ribbons, much like peeling a lemon, before frying them in hot lard. It turns out that the twisted, curly fries we eat out of a cardboard container today originally started out as an elegant garnish for upscale 19th century dinner parties.
It seems that Thomas Jefferson had some very cool relatives that came up with great things.
What I'm thinking here, because Thomas Jefferson introduced us to ice cream in the United States, right? So I'm wondering if Mary and Thomas got together and dunked the French fries
in the ice cream, probably because it's really good that way.
I agree.
We're also celebrating National Pina Colada Day and National Clarihue Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
If you're looking for world-class website hosting at a fair price, Pair Networks is your best choice. Founded in the early days of the web and still going strong today, Pair Networks now hosts over 150,000 websites for its demanding customers worldwide. Setting the standards for excellence, Pair Networks has a technical and support staff that's second to none. A highly stable company with top-of-the-line technology, Pair Networks offers total reliability and flexibility for your website, and even a money-back guarantee. Whether you're a professional web designer or a beginner just getting your site online, Pair Networks has a web hosting plan that's right for you. Make the move today. Log on and learn more at pair.com. That's PAIR.com. Pair Networks. World-class web hosting at a fair price. Visit us at pair.com. Pair Networks.
Off at Guam, over the last 2 years, we have built strong relationships, opened new doors, and created real opportunities for our island. Those partnerships continue to grow stronger, and together, we are making meaningful progress for Guam. Early voting for 2026 primary elections begins July 9th and runs through July 25th at the Westin Resort. Tuesdays through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now is not the time to lose momentum. The foundation has been laid, the relationships have been built, and opportunities before Guam have never been greater. Your vote will help ensure we continue moving forward together. I humbly ask for your support and your vote. Let's keep building a stronger future for Guam. I'm James Moylan, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by James Moylan for Congress. David L. Camacho, Treasurer.
The road to Adelup is off and running. This time, we sit down with Republican candidate Speaker Frank Blass and Dr. Mario Cotto. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 7th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpses of Guam radio station.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
The road to Adelup is here, and this time we spoke with Democrat candidates, Senator Toris Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a glimpses of Guam radio station.
Hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
Hafide Guam! The Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association invites you to the Fair Trade Show, Guam's premier hospitality and food service event. Join us August 19th and 20th at the Hyatt Regency Guam from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Experience hands-on training sessions and exciting culinary competitions featuring professionals, apprentices, and pastry talent. Discover new products, connect with suppliers, and celebrate Guam's hospitality industry. Don't miss Fair 2026. Visit GHRA.org for details.
The road to Adelup is set. This time, we sit down with Democrat candidates Senator Joe San Agustin and former Senator Dwayne San Nicolas. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 8th on the Wave 105 YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
Grab a bottle of ketchup and pass the salt. We're celebrating a legendary crispy side dish with a highly debated global history. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for July 10th.
National French Fry Day is usually associated with greasy paper bags and a quick meal on the go. But one of our favorite regional variations actually got its start in the world of high society. Most people assume this seasoned curly fry was engineered by corporate executives in the 1980s. In reality, the very first known recipe for spiralized, deep-fried potatoes was published all the way back in 1824. It appeared in a historic cookbook written by Mary Randolph, an elite Southern author who happened to be related to Thomas Jefferson. She instructed cooks to carefully slice whole potatoes into continuous unbroken ribbons, much like peeling a lemon, before frying them in hot lard. It turns out that the twisted, curly fries we eat out of a cardboard container today originally started out as an elegant garnish for upscale 19th century dinner parties.
It seems that Thomas Jefferson had some very cool relatives that came up with great things.
What I'm thinking here, because Thomas Jefferson introduced us to ice cream in the
Right.
United States, right? So I'm wondering if Mary and Thomas got together and dunked the French fries
In the ice cream, probably because it's really good that way.
I agree.
We're also celebrating National Pina Colada Day and National Clarihue Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
If you're looking for world-class website hosting at a fair price, Pair Networks is your best choice. Founded in the early days of the web and still going strong today, Pair Networks now hosts over 150,000 websites for its demanding customers worldwide. Setting the standards for excellence, Pair Networks has a technical and support staff that's second to none. A highly stable company with top-of-the-line technology, Pair Networks offers total reliability and flexibility for your website, and even a money-back guarantee. Whether you're a professional web designer or a beginner just getting your site online, Pair Networks has a web hosting plan that's right for you. Make the move today. Log on and learn more at pair.com. That's PAIR.com. Pair Networks. World-class web hosting at a fair price. Visit us at pair.com. Pair Networks.
From breaking news to bright ideas, Wave 105 is where Guam speaks.
No ghetto man goes talking that jive around. He don't bang up on my door and wake the whole town. Yeah, you once had my love, baby, but you gave all that up to some lady. No ghetto man comes begging down on all fours. He's got his self-respect, man, so get off of my floor. You think you're the star of my movie? I can tell you apart from what's groovy. Now you can waste my heart, hold me back for you until you're good and ready for love. No, you can waste my heart, get on what I went through. Now I know enough is enough. Giving it to you.
9:40. Oh wow, how'd that happen? Well, so I offered you half my morning breakfast,
Yeah.
and while we were talking, I ate your half.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, when you,
I,
when you
I
get
was
to the
I was
Mongo
so
beans and the
intrigued.
hammock.
I was so intrigued by your conversation. I'm like, really, tell me more, and I just kept eating.
No, the mango beans and hammocks. That was really good. She actually makes really good, and it was the spaghetti with the bow tie noodles. I like that.
Oh, you like that one?
The bow tie noodles. That
I
I
actually
mean,
have
you
bow
co-
tie
you
at
come
home.
you
Yeah,
come
come clutch.
Yeah, you come clutch with a couple of these dishes. I mean, I'm crushing them.
All right. Yeah, you do. I'll tell you what else she likes. I found out, and I do know that there are certain foods that she will not touch. She doesn't like pica. She doesn't do
Yeah,
pica.
yeah.
She doesn't do mayo. That's definitely for real.
Do you know
that
what
can-
mayonnaise is? It's
Yeah,
just
it's eggs.
and oil, dude. That's all.
And
we're
eggs and
eating.
oil, yeah.
Girl, there goes my heart and all of my arteries, girl.
Well, unless you use, like, they have mayo that you use olive oil.
Olive oil.
instead
Okay.
of like vegetable oil.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yes, that is. Hey, you're onto something.
Yeah.
Is that what kind of mayonnaise?
No,
you got?
I like a mayonnaise that they don't sell in stores here unless you're on base. It's not even that bougie. It's Duke's Mayo.
Are the commissaries open already? We can go to the commissary.
I don't
now.
know. She said
Yeah.
that NEX was closed yesterday,
NEX
but I
was
don't know.
closed.
I think they were having power generation issues. I'm assuming. I have no idea. I don't go up
There
there.
was no traffic on Anderson, so I don't think they're open yet. Right? I'm
I
basing it.
really don't know.
Like,
I'm
why
basing.
aren't you guys lining up? There's nothing in there. It's like, are you guys not going to the base today? There's no line. It's like,
I know.
Where are you guys going? Where's it happening?
Do you
at?
have money
for
things?
Like what kind of things?
I don't know. Stuff you
Like
have to-
adult things or like just
Yeah, adult
nonsense?
things.
I was like, money for
I
what
know,
are we
she's
looking?
like, yeah.
I'm like, wait, hold
Adult-
on.
that's
like,
a good
adult
one.
things.
Adult things or
like,
playthings?
yeah, like what are we doing?
No
Like-
adult playthings, but just adult things,
Like adult things.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
yeah.
food.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
I
Well,
got adulting. Yes.
Okay, that's good.
I got
that's
my
good
adulting.
because some people are having a hard time with it.
with the adulting.
Yeah, man, bro.
It's tricky.
Well, here's one.
It's tricky. I mean,
is there any fuel assistance program available on Guam? That's
wanted-
almost a laughable question. I'm going to treat it like it's rhetorical because it
I
doesn't
wanted
exist.
To ask that. We were all asking. That's it. You pulled that out of my chat group.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
That is like
No.
the question. Are we going to get reimbursed for our generator money? That's what everyone is asking. Name us insert supermarket here.
Yeah, no, I think what's happening is that what they do is they give you like money. Well, like Chris Barnett said, he's going to chisel
Right.
into his old-fashioned caveman tablet because he thinks that
That's what he
internet is
does.
out the window. He was making a joke, but,
Yeah, no, I'm
but
following.
I understand the sarcasm there. But he's doing an amendment. He says, "Hey, let's not roll back that last 0.5%.
Okay.
5% on the 5%, 4.5 down to 4.0. Let's not do that. Let's go with the let's go with giving that to whatever we're going to get in that income to $1,000 per family
Okay.
to offset and relieve.
$1,000 per family.
Yeah, to offset and relieve the effects of the typhoon.
Okay. Okay. This is like the power credit, but this is a people credit.
Right. Exactly.
Not a power credit.
Who's
but a
not going to
people-
be mad at that 3 weeks before an election?
People
Not
credit.
me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I just threw away about $1,000 worth of food yesterday. So not me arguing about getting a little stipend from the government.
Okay.
So that's kind of his idea, and I think that Will Parkinson had the same idea with the energy credit.
Right.
He was $100, every month for the next 3 months, giving people about $100 extra to pay for fuel. So, and he's saying, I get this, and I'm just going to echo what he said because I tend to think that he is going to get a lot of argument on the Republican side because of that, and he's going to have to gear up for a big fight there. But I think that the will of the people is like, yeah, sign me up. And he's not saying a bad thing 3 weeks before the election. It's whether or not he can hold it and actually make it happen. That would be something the governor might be agreeable to, which is almost, you can't say Chris Barnett and the governor in the same sentence, but it would work. People have expended their money to prepare for the typhoon. I know somebody who said to me the other day, I spent $1,200 on this typhoon. The typhoon happened last week Sunday. We're not even a week in. They spent $1,200. And to some people, that can be chump change for preparation and everything. I'm pretty sure that they were buying at that $1,200 was not necessarily, not necessarily in-app games. You know what I mean? That's not where they were spending on upping their lives on their Candy Crush. That's not what that was for. I get it. And I know exactly how much I spent. Who knew that I needed to do this much more for the shutters? How did I know that I had blah, 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 blah? These are unexpected expenses. And people who have, an income that is budgeted out for these things sometimes don't leave room for in the case of emergency. People have money to get them to the next paycheck. So if you're not prepared for these things and they happen, then you're going to find yourself at a deficit before payday, which for some people is not till next week. So how do you survive the weekend, right? And I am lucky enough that my rainy day fund allowed me to buy a generator. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about these people that I'm talking about. They were able to buy a generator because they needed to keep their food supply going every day, so that it runs their refrigerator, and so their food source is intact because it's preserved with the proper stabilized temperatures. However, I'm also spending that much more on gasoline because I got to be able to feed this generator that's feeding the food that's feeding me. So I'm kind of really in a bad place. So is it laughable? And I could kind of chuckle at it. Yeah, it is. It's chuckling because no, there isn't a fuel assistance program for you. And unfortunately, there isn't one unless you get some kind of aid in a grant form from the federal government. You're on your own. Yeah, go ahead and throw out $800 worth of food. You're on your own, bro. There's nothing right now that's saying that you can apply for some kind of assistance. There's nothing that says that you can do it. And this was almost one of those typhoons that it might have knocked something down that you needed, but it wasn't enough to file a claim, or FEMA's not going to let you file a claim because it wasn't that severe. So you may not have any assistance. I don't know how that works with your own personal home insurance, but there's that. So he writes, is there any fuel assistance program available on Guam? And then he makes a big space between that and the next paragraph, which makes me feel like I have to laugh there, right? With the power still out, it feels like we're spending more on gas than we normally do on our utility bill, which, by the way, on July 1st went up an average of $58 for the average customer that uses about 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. You're going to expect to pay $58 more. Driving around to find ice, charge batteries, and keep essentials going adds up fast. I know many families are in the same situation right now. I know if anyone knows any fuel assistance or relief programs, please share the information below. It could really help a lot of people. Written 2 hours ago. 1 like. 2 likes, I take that back. 1 like, no comments. No help. No assistance program. Brother, I'm in the same boat. Can't even respond. I can't even like it. I got nothing for you. I got 0 reaction and I got 0 answer. That's just, and so I'll tell you what you can do is you go and get a mobile gas card or what the Smiles cards, rewards card, and you get rewards. You got to buy a whole lot of gas in order to cash in on that, right? You can get a little bit of a discount. I don't know how much of the discounts are for gasoline these days, but, people can get like 10 cents off or whatever, 5 cents off a gallon or whatever it is, wherever that helps. But yeah, for the most part, not on that. You have to build up that rewards program to be able to reward from it, and it takes a little while. So 1 like or 2 likes, I take that back. 2 likes, no comment. That's just the way of surviving after a typhoon goes, and that's unfortunate. But you know what? Keep an eye and an ear out for these advisories that are coming out from. We haven't seen any yet from updates other than today is when they start the Teeds and Green Waste site. That's open from 8 until 5. And don't try to bring your furniture or the clothing that got wet or dirty carpets or, any batteries that you didn't use. None of that. Food, none of that. You no white goods, none of that. You just got to bring like construction material, that kind of stuff. That's the junk or the waste that they're looking for. Pretty much anything you want to throw out right now as you're cleaning up your house is not acceptable at these waste sites. It's really only like construction material, old shutters or wood or green waste, construction debris. So there 2 places are open. They have the Apra Harbor opens commercial traffic to support island-wide cleanup efforts. The government of Guam with DPW and Environmental Protection opened up 2 official typhoon debris disposal sites. EPOW Point, that's open now from 8 o'clock until 5 through to Saturday, July 25th. Only green waste and construction debris. And then they've got the other one at Tiedzen, which opens today from 8 to 5. They're taking only green waste. If you've got construction debris, then you got to go over to EPAL Point. So that means no garbage, no toys, no white goods, no old stereo equipment, which I found a box of.
Okay.
LG stereo equipment. What the heck was I thinking? I don't even know who that belongs to.
LG stereo equipment. Gotcha.
You ever find the one thing that I'm finding? Cords for phones.
Oh, yeah.
I'm finding a lot of cords for phones. What am I doing with all these
Lines,
cords?
adapters.
Random blocks for charging. Adapters. What am I doing with all these things? Why do I have so many of those?
And that's at EPAL Point, the debris disposal site, right?
Yeah, well, anything that I'm listing here, you can't bring there. It's only debris at Tiedzen, green waste at Tiedzen, and construction debris at EPAL.
Got it. Construction at EPAL.
No pesticides, no furniture, no cookware, no coolers, no cement, no hoses, no ceramic pots, no playground equipment, no trees, no parts from the vehicle, no old tires from your bicycle.
Okay.
And here's what you didn't need to tell me. No animal remains. Happen to have an old animal carcass laying around. Just thought I'd try to get rid of it. Yeah. No animal carcasses allowed at these sites. Only wastes. No biological waste, no medical waste, none of that. So don't bring your dead animal carcasses. Right? I don't know why I felt I had to mention that. Apparently, you have to tell people not to bring your old pets. I'm so sorry. I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the fact that I had to be told not to.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, we hope that the power goes on for everybody that was listed. We hope your water goes on for everybody that listed. It's a hot day today, man. What is the temperature today?
Be hot out there.
Oh, it's muggy.
Offer some water to the guards when you see them at the traffic light intersection. Give them a nice little wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
customs
stop to. I don't
officers.
think I would stop to give them water, though. I don't think they like that. Yeah,
No,
I mean,
you'll
but
see them on the side.
on the side, they have
They have
that-
their little tents.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
dude,
Just
totally.
Yeah, when you guys see
Swing
'em,
by,
just-
grab 'em some.
Yeah, grab them a little. Give them a little something. I mean, not in the middle of the road he's at, but you know. when you see
I
'em.
had a running joke, and I'm the only person who's running this joke because
Okay.
I don't feel like anybody else in my neighborhood has a sense of humor.
Okay.
But somebody said we brought water out to the GPA crews that came. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
that's so nice. That's a very good gesture.
Right on.
And then somebody goes, well, we brought sodas.
Okay.
I'm like, ooh, now I feel like it's a competition.
Oh.
Now I feel like I should bring filet mignon or something. I don't know, but that wasn't my side of the street. I feel like, oh, everybody's challenging. It's like, I brought water. Well, I brought soda. So I asked one of the neighbors, I said, hey, so what are you bringing?
Okay.
Because you seem to have like a lot of things.
That's funny.
And I don't know if there was a sense of humor or it was a snide remark. I don't think it was a smug remark. I think it was just, well, I'll go look in my archives. I'm like, nobody's playing with me. I'm trying to play a no. Right. Apparently, having no power is not a laughing matter.
I got you.
Don't laugh at the fact that we don't have power.
We gave him scotch and whiskey.
That's my jam.
I gave him some scotch and whiskey.
They'd be like, please don't drink it while on the job, but you know.
Gotta strategize with him. Be like, hey man, how you doing? And then just pop an air tag. Be like, we're following you. I know when you're coming back to the Ville. Okay?
I'm gonna
tracking
say,
you, sir.
I said to
tracking you.
Riley the other night, I go, Reese, let's go. And she's like, we're gonna all get in the car.
Yeah,
Because I
right.
needed to charge my phone and we're gonna stroll.
Oh yeah.
And so I said, hey, Sean, you want to go? And he goes, where are we going? I go, we're gonna go find UPA bucket trucks. He's like, I'm down. So we
Okay.
all piled into the car.
Okay.
And just had the best time laughing, just driving through all of the hot spots, the dark places. Sean was driving. I was in the back seat. Erica was in the front seat. Sean and Reese and Riley were in the back with me. We literally laughed. Riley lost his breath a couple of times because and I said, you know what, boy, this is, if you were growing up in Guam, and I said this to somebody else, every self-respecting Chamorro child, Guam child, should know what it's like to wave your hand over an open candle flame and play with the hot wax, right? And eat everything on site and play Monopoly and cards and laugh with your family and get in the car to go look for ice And to just do all of these things, you're sweaty, you don't have any water, but you're foraging all the time. And then when you're foraging and you find something, you bring it home like you were out as a hunter and gatherer and tell the family, look what I brought from the outside. Look what I got. I found bugles with cheese flavor. I'm like, where did you get that? You know, let's sit down. I mean, it's random. It is just random. And you create such a big mess at the end of the night. Strewn about is like, you know, all of these open wrappers and crumbs on the floor and leftover cards and blown out candles and burnt fingers and wilted stuff. And it just is a mess. And you walk away to go to bed. You go, tonight was a good night. Tonight was a good night. We all laughed in the face of no power and no water. And we're still going to have it tomorrow, the day after, the day after, the day after. But in the meantime, you better bet I'm going to do this again tomorrow night.
Hey, there we go.
Until the power comes on. And then we're all going to escape to our rooms. No one's going to talk to each other until the next typhoon. It's like all your everything is like you're going to text the person in the other room. Hey, you know, what happened to that charger that you borrowed that night that we played Monopoly and ate bugles, you know? Hey, it's just, it's really, I'm not going to try to sit here and pontificate or try to, you know, make life easier for you when you're not in the mood. But that's kind of what we do. At least that's what I do personally. We just throw it out there. If, you know, sitting around the table and playing with the candle wax is not your jam, you know what I mean? You'll find a jam. But the jam is with the people that are holding you all together like glue. Like peanut butter. That's why they go together, jam and peanut butter.
That's why they go, PB and J.
Together, you're cohesive. God, did you see how we did that? We turned it back to food again.
Yeah.
Just do that all the time. I'm still hungry.
PB and J. Can't go wrong with that.
Bring it to the table.
That's right.
And y'all have a really safe one and find a way to laugh it off. Someplace. You got to look at yourself after it's all over and go, was I part of the problem?
Share your power with
or
your
was
neighbors.
I part of the solution? Yeah. And how did I handle that? And you'll be proud of yourself when you figure it out that, you know.
Check it on your neighbors.
Tonight was a good night.
It was.
The ants are eating the food the next morning, but last night was a banger. Last night was a banger. I hope all your nights without power and water are bangers.
There we go.
And we'll get back here on Monday because I think we're stable with water and power up here. Thank God that we've got whatever we've got to be able to get on the radio and deliver these soliloquies. That's Dice on that side. She's going to be over at Power 98 here at 2 o'clock. Find her if you really want to up in your day. That is the shot of insulin that you need. Come back over here on at the same time. We've got Wave and Polly Suba doing his thing from 2 until 6. And then Rand Kaufman sort of rounds out our talk radio week with Edge of Heaven this afternoon or evening at 6 o'clock. Right now, it's 10 o'clock in the morning here on Mornings with Patty. I'm Patty.
I'm Dice.
KGUM, FM, and Daddy Do Guam. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here on Monday. Thanks, Dice.
Love you, Patty. Love you, Guam. Thank you, guys.
You're listening to KGUM FM Daddy Dog, Wave 105.1 FM, the Talk of Guam, a proud Glimpses media radio station.
Grab a bottle of ketchup and pass the salt. We're celebrating a legendary crispy side dish with a highly debated global history. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for July 10th.
National French Fry Day is usually associated with greasy paper bags and a quick meal on the go. But one of our favorite regional variations actually got its start in the